think everyone is here that's supposed to be here. So, Grace, would you read the roll, please? Open the meeting.
Councilman Beal?
Here.
Councilwoman Bettina?
Here.
Councilman Phillips?
Here.
Councilman Casella?
Here.
Supervisor Thurston?
Here. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Next item is the agenda, and I have 10 items to add.
Only 10?
Just an internal joke. I wanted to see if he was listening.
That'll take it to 26.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
A second?
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. We have a motion to acknowledge the minutes of the June 8th, 2020 meeting.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Right now, I think it's not on there. I will make a few comments before we open the public, portion. And I want to welcome everyone to the second board meeting of June and the second live meeting that we've had live as far as attendance of the board and our consultants and staff. I appreciate everyone that's still listening here around the time of our next board meeting after the July 6th, which is supposed to be around phase 4 opening. Then under our protocol rules, we will open it back up, for people to come in, subject to whatever social distancing is in place at that particular time. I want to try to keep it brief since, as Councilman Bill reminded me, that we have 16 items, I guess, on the agenda. But seriously, the first item I want to mention is related to water conservation. As you've noticed, we're in the midst of what may become an extended dry spell. We're seeing a lot of brown grass, and it's probably going to get browner. I ask each and every one of our residents and businesses on town water, to start observing more voluntary conservation practices. Try to limit the use that you can. Our town wells have a capacity under non-drought conditions, that is, if the Sprout Creek is full to capacity, of 2.2 million gallons a day. We are talking, and I think we'll hear a little bit tonight from our engineers about perhaps some additional capacity that we've been working on. We are now averaging 1.8 million gallons a day, according to Mike Tremper this afternoon, with a high point on Sunday of 2.1 million gallons. So we're just shy of what really is our capacity. So please, everyone, conserve. Do your best to do it so we don't have to go into water rationing of any sort. But it looks on the calendar right now, weather report, dry spell through at least July 4th, thunderstorms maybe here and there. Want to remind everyone that tomorrow is election day for primaries. Town Hall, this room right here, will be the consolidated site for the town primary elections. All of the other previous voting polls are held here. We already have the election equipment in the back of the room, so please turn out. The hours are 7 in the morning to 9 at night. So I know it's a primary, and in our particular wards and district, there's not a lot of activity, but I think it's still important for everyone to turn out if you haven't sent in your absentee ballots already. So this is for those that haven't sent in ballots, would like to come in person. You can come here to Town Hall. With respect to COVID-19, tomorrow is the day that Dutchess County and town of Wappinger enter phase 3. And I thanks to everyone, both in this room and on television and elsewhere through the town, for all that you've done to make that possible. And a lot of hard work has gone into it. Testing is up, continues to be up. I think the last couple of days, our county executive said there's been 2,000 additional tests. The positive results are staying around 1%, just where people would like to see it. Our health commissioner and many others, including us. So again, thanks to social distancing, wearing masks, washing hands, that appears to be working in our state, thanks to a lot of fine leadership throughout the state. Hospitalizations are at an all-time low within the county, down to 11, from when they first started, which was much higher than that. Unfortunately, as some people don't make it out of ICU, there is still a small increase in the death rate, not death rate, but the numbers. And our deepest condolences to all the family and friends and everybody that knows the people that have passed away. Of course, as we're seeing in the news, many states, I think the number's up to 23, continue to suffer from increased spread in hospitalizations, particularly in ICU capacity. Some are at near capacity. And the unfortunate thing is that also because of lack of social distancing and other factors, a lot more young people are catching it, which can then bring the spread to older people back at home. For us and for the state, particularly Hudson Valley region, phase 3 reopening means that restaurants are now going to be allowed to increase to allow some indoor seating up to 50% capacity. We've already been enjoying, and I hope many of you have been enjoying, some of the outdoor seating. The restaurants in our town have been doing a fine job. What does 50% indoor capacity means? It still means that the restaurants are subject to their overall capacity limitation. So if you had 100 people in a restaurant and you're going to open up for 50 indoors, you could have no more than 50 out of doors. So please, the state has the continued guidelines, but it's good news that that's going to happen. Personal care industry, whether it's nail salons, it's tattoo parlors, barbershops, spas, massage, et cetera, are now going to be allowed to open. So are yard sales, garage sales, tag sales. Again, with limitations, I think that limitation is 25 people with respect to being allowed to attend one of those. So overall, good news, and I think the county executive in particular, in conjunction with all that, is trying to move this opening along even a more rapid pace based on the numbers we're seeing, and that means hopefully by 4th of July weekend, we'll see some other improvements being announced within the next 2 weeks. Also, we, the county executive, other officials are pushing for the what is known as the HEROES Act. That's increased federal funding passed by the House, U.S. federal Congress, and that would also provide more funding to local municipalities, including ours. I want to pass on, not related to COVID, but somewhat impacted by COVID, is that on 4th of July there will be fireworks displays. There's going to be in 3 locations, I believe, Bill, right? In the county. And that's going to be available on the website. We'll be posting information on our website and encourage it. It's open to all residents. So we're going to encourage everybody as we publish more detailed information, but it's it's a great thing, I think, doing and trying to get people, to put in their minds a lot of what we've been through, behind us. Last thing that I'll say is that Town Hall is a reminder. Our last meeting we discussed the schedule, but our staff has been reporting back into Town Hall starting tomorrow. We're open to residents, businesses, and other folks that need to come to Town Hall by appointment only. Social distancing, mask wearing, and so forth are going to be in force. But if you need to meet with an individual or a department, please call ahead. All that information's been posted, and you can arrange for an appointment. Everybody that comes in for those appointments will be coming in through the front door over here to my left. That's the north-facing door, facing the junior high school, grounds. So parking will be in the 2 side lots. Tomorrow, Town Hall is not going to be open officially because of Election Day. People, though, can come in through that left front door over facing the north area. But then starting Wednesday, will be available for appointments. So please, if you need to come in, we still encourage everyone to try to deal with matters that are possible to be dealt with remotely, whether it's through the phone, through email, and other means. So we again want to thank everyone for their patience And I also want to remind everyone to continue to observe, the basic rules that the CDC has in place that have been promoted by the governor and the county executive. I won't go through those lists, but most of all, just please respect everybody else. The common courtesies are very important. There are a lot of people that are deathly afraid of COVID and catching it, particularly seniors, people that are ill, infirm. So please, pay close attention to that. And in the meantime, until we see you, please stay safe and remain well. So those are the end of my comments. What I'd like to do is then move to opening the public portion. Grace or Joey, do we have any public comments received before this meeting?
No public comment was received for a public portion.
Officially, we'll open it. Do I have a motion to open it? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Seeing no public comments, and you confirm that that's just within the last minute, do I have a motion to close?
I'll make a motion to close.
Okay. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item will be the financial, monthly update, and I'll ask Frederick to come up here and present. You have 10 minutes, Mr. Owino, and I'm starting the timer now.
Thank you very much. The last time I presented was May 11th, and that was for the first 3 months of 2020. What I'm going to present today is for the first 5 months of 2020. And I did put in front of you a summary of the financial update. So that's what I'm going to go through. I have backup in terms of the detailed revenue and expenditure at the back. Let me start with the General Fund A. If you look at my summary, so far we have received about 77%, 3.1 million. As of May 19, about 3.2. Rental of real property, we are at 47%, which is more or less where we should be at this time. Fines and forfeited bail, we are not doing very well. We have only received for the 3 months of 2020, 65,000, about 25% of the budget. I don't think the numbers for April and May are going to be very good. I saw tentative something around 7,000 for the month of April, but we didn't book that yet. State aid aim, as of last reporting, we are not sure whether we are going to get it from New York State, 266,000 or not. Department of Budget indicated earlier on about 50% cut, so that's about 133,000. Mortgage tax, I think this has been, so far, per the reporting from Dutchess County, about 291,000, which is the net. So that's not too bad, which is 64%.
Didn't we have that one big payment, though, in January for like $100,000?
We
So
don't.
that kind of skews the way this thing looks now?
Yeah, but this is for the January through May, so that's the total. It's usually a little higher than that, but this is the net after removing the expenditure. They normally deduct about 8% of the raw data, so we get about 92% of whatever they report in that spreadsheet.
But Councilman Casale, I think you're right, because the last reporting month was like 47,000. We've seen a decline from that previous high.
Yeah, I think 47 was in April, but May they reported 70-something thousand.
Right, so this is where you're going to see potentially in fiscal year 2021 your delta that can occur, because we may see the revenue now coming in at this rate of 64%. We may make the budgeted amount for 2020, but it's the future 2021 budget where we really have to be conservative on that revenue line, because eventually it's going to be like 1 quarter behind or 2 quarters behind.
Agreed.
The B fund, we have received 20% of the budget, compared to May 19 at the same time, 38%. Sales tax revenue, we've already discussed that, almost guaranteed for 2020, 1,094,000 expected at the end of the year to be distributed between the B and the DB funds. Franchise fees, we are about 25%, which is per the budget. Building permits, we have only 32%, 1 or 2, out of a budget of 300,000. So this is running behind. Average per month, 20,000. We are estimating a shortfall of 55 by the end of the year. Hopefully, things pick up in July. Parks and recreation charges, we have only received 500 out of a budget of 59,000. But then again, these budget items are revenue and expenditure. So if we don't get the revenue, then it means that the programs are not going to be undertaken. Highway, 3.4 million as of May, that 84,000. Same time last year, 3.4, about the same. Chips, I think we've already discussed that. The budget is 270,000 as far as the paving is concerned, but we say that we might only get 50% of that, which is 135,000, and we have already incorporated this in the bonding for paving, which we agreed would be 475,000.
Did we get something, notification, though, the 135 is going to be closer to 200,000?
After the meeting, I had some people say that we might get 100%, not just 50%.
Right, so we had
So
thought that it wasn't going to be 270. We estimated half for the bond purposes,
Yes.
135, but
Right.
I thought I
The
saw
notice
something
was
in writing.
notice was 80%, you're correct.
Yeah,
Al.
that's what I'm thinking.
It's
So the notice
80%.
is 80%, so about 200,000, so $65,000 better than we expected.
Yeah, I think it falls
Right.
short, 197,000, something
Yep.
like that,
Yep.
is what the number is.
Regarding expenditure, A fund, we are at 1.8, which is 38% of the 4.7 million budget. As of May 19, same time, 1.9, 40% of the budget. We have a few lines of that we have gone over, as I've indicated there. Town hall, water for town hall, gone over by $61. I think it suggests that we are drinking a lot of water. Maybe we need to revisit, or maybe consider using another company. Highway equipment, this is the line that was budgeted for the computers. Unfortunately, the budget was only $500, but I think they needed at least 3 computers. One computer is about 600 and change. So that's why we have that. Canworth Farms, budget 10,000. We have used or spent 18,000. Most of the extra is coming from the work that's going on at Canworth. There's some door that was being installed. So we spent about 12,000 paying Hudson Valley for the installation of that door.
What was that? What were we
Yeah,
installing?
what was that for, the
Yeah,
12,000?
that's the point that Steve mentioned at previous board meeting where he had ordered steel replacement doors, which we approved last fall, but they didn't come in until late. Steve, if you want to comment on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Those doors were budgeted with 2019 money,
Okay.
and they didn't arrive until about mid-January or so in 2020, which, and I still had to pay for it, and I counted on using the 2019 money. That's where that came from.
What were the doors used, were they used for?
5 exterior doors on the Reese building that had rotted to the point where they were no longer secure.
So that's why most of the excess is coming from about 15,000, 4.8. $4,800 paid 3 times to the Hudson Valley door and hardware companies. So
So is the process as we go over each one of these budget line items, are they supposed to come back to the board to reallocate dollars so that we're not exceeding, or?
I think the process should be that the departmental head should come before the board and request a modification of the budget line before the expenditure. That would be the ideal situation, not after.
I agree.
Well, it's actually the law.
Yes.
So you can't overspend a line here. We have multiple lines overspent, and we're not even halfway through the year yet. So my question would be, why is this happening, and
Exactly.
why are these bills being paid?
I agree.
Each one of these needs to come before the board and be deliberated before
That was my point.
these expenses are paid. So as the controller, my question to you would be, why are these bills being paid? Why are these lines being overspent? We're not even to June 30th yet.
I think that's a good question. When we do receive the invoice, and like Steve said, that this was already approved, so you are at a situation where you have a genuine claim that's come before you, and the vendors keep calling. So I agree with you. That is not the ideal situation, but if from now on you want if every line that is overspent, we have to come before the board, and we can start doing that and hold all the bills until when the budget lines are replenished or.
Well, the lines can't be overspent.
Right.
It's just not allowed under the law. So with the fact that it's occurring here and that we have lines that are overspent, not even halfway through the year, is a concern to me. I understand the situation with the doors. I get that. However, those were ordered in fiscal year 2019, correct?
Correct.
That should have been an encumbrance.
Right.
Wasn't done.
That paperwork didn't get done.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's the type of thing that we need to be really cognizant of, especially now moving into uncertain revenue situations.
So the other thing I would suggest too is we start looking through this, because I went through all your spreadsheets that you sent. So anything that's greater than 42% spent this year, which is basically 5 months equivalent, we should be looking at the stuff and saying, why are we 50, 60, 80%? And there's a number of items here as I went through that we're over 100% spent. It just so happens that Carnworth happens to be one of them, but there's a number of items like that. I think that's things that we need to take a look at, because this is going to set a precedent, and it's going to potentially make us be exposed for 2020.
I agree. And I think the department head should be coming forward to this board and explaining how it happened.
Not to mention, it is the law
Right.
that it's done.
So,
And I don't want to make it sound like anyone's intentionally violating the law, because
No, I agree.
this
I'm
is
just,
not uncommon in town budgeting. This happens every town, but we just need to keep our eye on the ball, and that's why we have these discussions, right?
That's right.
We need to especially keep our eye on the ball now, since we already see indication of revenue challenges, right?
Right.
And listen, there's still a lot of year left, so we could see, in a perfect world, we could see
a
some
revenue uptick, sure.
We could see an uptick in the last,
Sure.
2 quarters, right? However, I think from a fiduciary standpoint, we just need to really reinforce to the department heads that, hey, listen, if you have an appropriated line item that's approaching, 100%, clearly, you need to have a conversation with the supervisor and the town board about how we can make sure you have enough money in that line to make it to the end of the year. That's all.
Under the B fund, we had also B 3620.200, which was, again, equipment or basically computer, although included in this line was payment for Municity software, which is a cloud-based software which was approved by the board. So again, we are going to make it from now on, anything that is over the departmental has to come before the board. The bill will not be paid.
yes.
Well, how about before we spend it, and we know we're going to spend it, we come in front of the board and say, I'm going to be over by X amount of dollars, before you actually expend it, and you have to come to us and say, by the way, I overexpended.
And to be fair, in some of these cases, we did have a conversation, we did reach consensus to make the purchase. It was just that when it got billed back to the line didn't have the money in it. So I think when we approve these types of things, we just need to make sure that there's an accompanying resolution relative to the movement of the money from contingency into that line, or create a separate line. If it's something that we didn't anticipate during the budget preparation last year, like a capital expense or a software change, then we should create another line mid-year and move money from contingency into that line. That just keeps it clean, that's all. And again, every town has situations like this occur, and we've certainly had this occur in the past. It's not the end of the world, but I think since we're doing this on a regular basis, it gives us the opportunity to remind everyone.
Yeah, but it also keeps us fiscal restraint here too, so we want to make sure we stay within our overall budget. So we may rebalance line items, but you want to make sure the total, we're going to at least hit the
Right.
total, not overrun the total. And that's my concern here, that, again, I went through this and I saw a number of items here where we're significantly greater than the 42%. And, you know, it's worrisome. I guess if you look at maybe the overall budget, like a B, DB, or A fund, maybe they're going to underrun and you can rebalance stuff. But if you look at a lot of the individual lines here, what I'm seeing is that, you know, we're you know, getting pretty close to, you know, being too much here. And we want to just make sure we can contain all this. I just don't want to see us run, you know, overrun the entire budget here, that's all. Just
I agree.
not that we're accusing anybody, we just want to make sure that, you know, we have a process in place that says we're going to review these things on a timely basis. And this is good. Thank you for the reports, by the way. Really do appreciate it, because now we can analyze the information.
Right. The only thing I wanted to mention regarding the lines is that we do budget at the 0.4 or the 0.2 or the 0.1 level. So if you have like a 0.4, 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, I think so long as the main line or the total of the 0.4s or 0.2s are within the budget, I think that's the most important thing. But anyway, I think it's also important that each time there's a line that's over the departmental head should come before you
I agree.
and
Well,
say this is
This is a great debate we've had in the past. My personal opinion, and I believe the opinion of the New York State Controller, is that if the money exists within the department head has some ability to move, if there's money left over in a .2 line, for example, into a .4 line, as long as it's not a personnel
Right.
line, right? So
Right.
I don't have an objection to that. I know in the past there have been some administrations that have wanted every single dollar to come before the town board, and that was post-2008, so I can kind of understand why that was. But personally, the interpretation that I have seen and heard on a number of occasions is the department head does have the purview, if there is a contingency line or if there are funds available on another line that are not going to be needed, to overspend a line that is within the current department appropriation. So in other words, if you have an appropriated line for buildings and grounds, for example, and you have a .9 or a .8 that has extra money in it, you can move it into the .4 to handle the contractual obligation or something
So
like that.
you're okay with rebalancing amongst the line items?
As
then?
long as it's within that
Okay.
department.
And the controller has approved that before when they've done their audit.
Okay.
I would just ask that the department head
Yeah.
make sure the controller and the supervisor are in the loop before doing that, so that there's no oversight.
But that being said, I think we still want to have reports like this.
Certainly.
So we're
Certainly.
aware
No,
to
they're very
manage the
valuable.
budget,
Thank you.
right?
I
right.
agree.
The other thing that the controller recommends with respect to purchase orders, so, you know, every purchase order that's issued, you know, before you purchase something, at the time the purchase order is generated, that purchase order isn't approved unless there's money in the appropriate
Right,
line.
right.
Okay.
And the purchase order is considered to be the encumbrance of the funds in that line. And
Right.
so, you know, once the purchase order is issued, you know, in the case with the doors, if the purchase order is issued, you know, at the time the purchase order is issued, you encumber the funds. That way, you know, you don't have two or three, if you do the encumbrance at the time the purchase order is, you may have two or three purchase orders that may be outstanding.
Right.
And you don't necessarily, if you didn't encumber the funds at the time, you know, you can have a line of $10,000, have one purchase order for $9,000, one purchase order
Right,
for
right, right.
$9,000.
Yeah.
So,
But I think, you know, from the past, and, you know, we've had this discussion, but because the town went to a controller, you know, office, and in light of what Bill said, we went away from approving every single invoice
no.
and document, which took half the board meeting, so we've streamlined that
yeah,
process.
no, but again, the controller would be the person that,
Right.
that,
That-
you
and
know,
that's
would
what-
encumber
yeah.
the purchase order and, you know, the department heads and everything else, so.
Right.
You know, that's, at least for outside purchases, you
Right.
know.
Frederick,
Now,
have you forecast revenues, year-end revenues?
Yes,
By fund? Do you have a ballpark where we're gonna stand?
Yes, if you look at page 2 of the summary, on the top, the last line under highway, the grits and sand, we are at 94%. Mike, we may need to look at that, see whether the budget is, you need to move some monies from another line, because the budget was only 15,000. And finally, the fund balances, end of May 2020, A fund 2.5, B fund 4.7, DB 4.1, total 11 million. However, we started with, at the beginning of the year, A fund 1.2, B 4.8, DB 1.9, total of 8. Now, the most important thing is what is the estimated year-end unassigned fund balances, and there is where we have probably the real numbers: 950,000 for A fund, 4.8 for B fund, and DB 1.9. So we can see that we are more or less in the B fund about the same, and in the DB, but in the A fund we are continuing to decline, and it's my estimation as of now that will go down by at least 280,000 by the close of the year. This is assuming, one of the assumptions I made in the A fund was that we will not receive the A money. And I also made some adjustments for the fines and fees. Finally, I have the item there, the last item. I don't know whether you wanted to discuss it.
We'll discuss that later.
But those are my numbers for that last item. Plus, I did a breakdown of where the numbers are coming from of that last item, the basic, and then the benefits.
Can I just ask you a question? So your A fund balance today is 2.528. It's going down to 950, you said, right? That's kind of your estimate. Do you know what the drawdown is for the roughly called $1.5 million, $1.6 million? You don't have to tell me now, but if you can take a look at that.
Could you, I don't think I'm with you, in terms of how does it move from?
2.5 to 950.
Yeah, because
That's a big
usually,
drop.
usually at the beginning of the year, we get most of our revenues like the property taxes, and it's so early in the year. We are 5 months. We still have 7 months to spend that money. So that's basically why that is why it is like that.
And you assume planned expenditures to go from the 2.5 down to the 950. So assuming nothing else changes, us making any other changes,
right?
that's how you got to the 950?
Yes.
So if we cut back some of those planned expenditures, the 950 balance would go up?
If we cut back, yes, but
Okay.
I don't know by how much. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No, just making sure there's
Yeah,
opportunity.
but the May numbers, fund balances are just, they are not real because we are just as of May, without taking into consideration the rest of the year. That is where we are right now. But of course, we know in reality we'll be spending much more money, while the revenue, most of them, almost, 80% of it we have received.
And you were assuming zero in AIM funding?
Yes,
In
I
that-
assumed.
So if we got 130, that 950 would be up.
Right, and I believe even next month when I report half year, those balances may change depending on the revenues that come in and the spending.
Okay.
So that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Frederick.
Thank you, Frederick.
Thank you, Frederick.
You're welcome.
A little more than 7 to 10 minutes, sorry.
Yeah, that's all right, that's questions. Steve? Yes. Come on up, please. And you have 5 minutes to cover your points.
Not really prepared to speak on the roof at Carnwest yet. I'm still working with the engineer and attorney on how we're gonna handle that, and I don't have numbers. on where we're at with that yet.
But I think, report to the board what your findings are.
We had a section of roof blow off last week during the windstorm we had the one evening. And I did have that section covered with a rubber membrane to make it watertight. But we did find that the shingles hadn't been installed properly from the contractor we had hired several years ago to do the renovation down there. And that's what we are working on at this point, to see what our options are as far as.
So we don't know if
pursuing
there's a
that.
warranty on that roof?
Excuse me?
We don't know if there's a warranty on that roof?
There is if it's installed properly, yeah. But that's, that's what we're working on.
Or if that previous contractor is
Is
still
still in
around
business?
and can pay.
We put that contractor on notice last week as soon as this happened, but we have
Okay.
no response from them.
What year was that done?
2018.
2018.
The original contract called for a 1-year warranty for labor for the installation, and then whatever warranty on the shingles itself.
I think they're 25-year shingles.
Well, we got 2 years out of them.
That's
Seems like we have an
that's
ongoing
awful.
issue with vendors here. It seems every year there's another vendor that did something wrong.
Yeah.
I don't understand why that is. Do we not have proper accountability for people that are doing work in the town? Because every year there's another vendor that screwed something up that we have to try to chase down and fix something. And that, to me, is something that is beyond a trend. It's just continues every year.
Accountability right now is we have our engineers and certify at the end of each project that it was done properly.
Well, I can say relative to CPL's involvement at the time was Morris, but that's neither here nor there. But we were handling the construction administration, really the paperwork. I asked the people involved if we had a full-time inspector on the job, and we did not. So I don't know how much time from the office was spent out there during construction.
Is that something our code enforcement would inspect or be involved with?
I don't know. I mean,
No?
generally, it's an option for the town to hire a full-time inspector to do the work, but I think based on the correspondence I saw, GAF is the manufacturer of the shingles. They require that the installer is certified through them. The installer that was performing the work originally was GAF certified, and that's what we tried to threaten with in the email, is that, if the town puts in an adjustment, an adjuster comes out and looks at it and says they're not installed properly, then there is recourse to go back to the contractor, at least at a minimum, get them blackballed from being a certified installer. But again, there's been no response. We'll stay on them.
Okay,
Good, Steve.
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay, the dump truck, the only new information I have is that the ordering date of July 10th is the last day that the truck could be ordered. I know we were going to look into some financing options. The amount that I would be short would be $37,300.
So you got 12,745 from the surplus sale?
Correct.
And where's the rest of the money coming out of if we did do it out of the, I guess, the A fund? Because you said we only need 37,300, so.
Right, I
what's the
have an
total cost of
equipment
the
line
truck?
that I can contribute 10,000 from.
Okay. So what is the total cost of the truck then? It's like about 60?
It's just under 68,000.
Okay. Thank you.
What that is a dump truck equipped with a stainless steel body, a salt spreader, and a 10-foot snowplow. It'd be four-wheel drive truck. Also set up for towing. So the 12,745 is what I net from the surplus equipment sale.
Yep.
Like I said, I could contribute 10,000 from my equipment line. I anticipate that the current truck would surplus for 8,000, possibly more. But I wanted to be conservative with that number. And then that left a balance of 37,300.
Now, Jim, I know you were going to take a look at whether we could potentially do this A-B combination of funds. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that.
We could, buy it from B fund, so, for parks.
I'm sorry, you said we could fund it all out of B
Well,
fund?
actually, do you don't do you have a is there an equipment line for B fund? I mean, if, the problem is these lines are all in A fund, so. Right?
My lines are A
Yeah.
fund, yeah.
There's nothing to say that you can't have a parallel line in the B fund for a specific purpose, though, if it's going to be,
Well, it would have to be recreation rather than buildings and grounds.
it'll be supporting recreation programs.
Right.
What I would say is, if we need to order this by July 10th, and the next meeting is when?
July 13th.
Yeah.
No, well, I don't like being put in this
Yeah, thank
situation.
you.
What's the delivery time if you get it in?
4 to 6 months, and I wouldn't be able to order again until probably late September.
And you use this for plowing the emergency services
This
building, and this
and
building?
next door, the primary buildings, yes, and that's 24/7 operation next door.
But we could use it other areas also,
Yes.
correct?
Excuse me?
We could use it in other areas besides just emergency
Oh,
services.
I'm,
That's
yeah,
what I'm
of
saying.
course,
It
yeah,
has
but those are the primary areas.
No, I
that,
understand that, but it is
Right, oh, of
gonna be able
course.
to use in other
Yes,
areas.
we'd use it throughout the town,
Thank you.
but the urgency is
No, I
next
understand, I
door,
get it, yeah, no, got it. But I wanna make sure that we
Right.
can
Oh,
utilize
of
it.
course, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, time's up. Sorry, Steve.
Double jeopardy here, right?
This is bad timing to be buying a $64,000 piece of equipment, in my opinion. The way that I see these types of purchases, and I say this every single year, is these things should be budgeted before we do the budget.
Well, I put it in last year's budget, and it got cut.
It got cut because we didn't have the money. So now,
Well, it got cut, the real story is, it got cut was because you didn't want to go over the 2% cap, and then, at that time, said that it would come out of the general fund.
right, but now, if you just look at the projected numbers, we're seeing a $2 million negative delta in the A fund projections, just looking at that, okay? That's why I'm interested in looking at B fund options relative to these things, but, you know,
That's why we asked Jim to take a look at that last time,
Right.
because we knew
Right.
we needed some other options.
I didn't know that we were gonna have to make a decision on this tonight.
I sent some emails out over the past couple of weeks saying that it's coming up.
Yeah, there
But
was
the
a-
thing is, this
there
is
was a
not the way
deadline.
this is really not the way we're supposed to be buying things. Capital purchases should be part of a capital plan that are budgeted for, not, decided upon at a town board meeting based on an arbitrary conversation about how much money we can move from line to line.
That's why I asked before about a 3 to 5 year capital plan, and that's what you really need.
Right. The challenge with a 3 to 5 year capital plan is that could be 2.5 town boards later.
Right.
That's-
Yeah, but you gotta make it, you gotta make a decision. If there's another town board, I mean, you wanna make the right decision for the taxpayers, and if that's the right thing to do, that's what we do, right? I,
Is it possible to transfer, do a transfer of funds from the B to the A fund just for the purpose of buying that equipment?
No, because it's different tax base. But I'm looking at the chart of accounts, and there's a line B, 7110.2, parks equipment and capital outlay.
Well, we don't have it right now, but we could create it.
Yep.
So B 711.
0.200.
All right, so that's going to be a new line, so there needs to be a resolution to move money into that line.
Yep.
so we would need to create a new line to move that over into the B fund?
Right, for the B fund balance.
From B fund
And
balance.
we're sure we can do this out of the B fund?
Yeah, there's a chart of accounts it's designated as parks rather than buildings and grounds. But it's used to maintain the parks, so
I was
it's
just gonna
appropriate.
say,
It
you
is.
have to maintain the parks.
Well, for
Right.
example, he uses his
Oh,
current truck
It
for
pulls the
Carn
mowers
Wrap
around
in
in
Right,
Robinson.
summer
right,
months, yeah.
That's why I was
what I
asking you.
mean.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then, other work as well,
Right,
right. And maintenance work of any type will be used, that truck will be used for.
so
Right.
that would be okay to do, Jim?
And I think that's why we're able to justify what Jim said, because it's used other than just the A fund for snow plowing and stuff, but you could also use it for other buildings and grounds areas, which, okay.
So you have 12 from the sale of equipment, you can contribute 10, and you need to sell your current one for 8, right?
Right, but I
So-
wouldn't be able to sell that one until the new one comes, so there would be a little, a deficit for a short time until we do, and I would like to say I'd get 10,000 for it, but I'm gonna be conservative and say that, I can almost guarantee the 8.
So you're gonna sell in December when it'd be easier to sell today than it would be in December, wouldn't it?
It'll be a hot ticket if there's a little snow on the ground.
So the difference you need is what, 30-something thousand?
37,300.
Well, but don't include the 10,000, because that's in the A fund.
Well,
Okay.
what I'm saying is, why can't we split it 50% A fund, 50% B fund? Use the surplus funding in the A fund towards that expense.
I would just use B fund balance, because we're so limited on the A fund. So what I would do is use the 12,745 for the sale of the equipment, and then ultimately the 8,000 surplus, whatever the surplus value would be, when it gets sold, would go back to B. You just designate that as a revenue source with no offsetting expenditure. So when that comes back, that would just go back to the B fund balance.
Well, I think that's maybe problematic. If something is A fund, I think we should split it, as Bill has suggested. The balance which is what we're looking for should go to the B fund that the land just created, the B711.200. And then the rest can be assigned to the A fund.
You can do that too.
Money that one can use there. And when he sells the equipment as a surplus, I think because it's an A fund equipment, it's going to go back to A.
You could do that too.
So how much what's the total cost of the vehicle?
68,000.
68,000, but you need
Yeah.
33,000, or,
He said 37,000.
37,300.
38,000. So
Right.
38,000 is what we need from the fund balance, B fund, to go into the line B711.200.
So you purchase it,
So.
all right. So I'll make a motion that we create line 7110.2B for the purposes of funding approximately 50% of this asset from the B fund. So I'll make that as a
I'll
motion.
second it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes.
I'll make a second motion that we fund that line utilizing existing B fund balance, 37,000.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes.
And then my third motion will be that we authorize the supervisor of buildings and grounds to purchase the vehicle utilizing the B fund appropriation plus the proceeds that he's going to receive from the surplus equipment, which will go into the A fund. So essentially, we're going to have 50% A fund, 50% B fund funding this asset.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes.
Thank you. The fence at Robinson Lane, I didn't realize that was coming up tonight, and I don't have those numbers in front of me. Do you have those numbers, Al?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So we have, there's 4 options on the table here. The first one is a galvanized framework with bottom tension wire, $9,495. The second one is a galvanized framework with bottom rail, and I think that's what you like, the bottom rail, right?
Bottom rail would be a sturdier fence.
That's $11,495. And then if you want to kind of go to an upgrade, you can go to the black framework with bottom tension wire. Again, not as good as the bottom rail for $10,495. And the final one is black framework with bottom rail, $12,895. So I think, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think the one we thought was the galvanized framework with the bottom rail for $11,495. But that's
That's the most economical choice that'll get the job done, yeah.
now that has the black fencing, correct?
I believe it's all galvanized.
Okay.
And it will match with everything else that's
Good.
out there at this point.
What's the height?
I believe it's 4 feet.
Yeah.
Is there a gate on it?
Yes.
There's gonna be 2 gates
Two
on it.
gates, a
One
4-foot wide
pedestrian
gate.
And
Sorry,
a
12 foot.
machine gate.
Yes, it'll be two of them, 4-foot and a 12-foot.
This is for, just refresh my memory, this is the Robinson Lane?
Yes, that's correct.
Playground.
And this is going to improve the safety of that,
That
playground.
facilities, that's correct.
This well is,
All right, I'll yield to a motion from the council on that.
So I'll make a motion that we approve out of the Parkland Trust Fund, $11,495 for the purpose of installation, and also putting up, and any other things that go along with labor for $11,495 for the fence
I'll
at
second.
Robinson Lane.
Just on the question, the vendor that we recommend?
Adams Fence.
Okay.
okay.
Okay, we have motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
And I believe
That's
oh,
it.
I have one quick item here. We had talked about the portable restrooms last meeting. I have that quote returns here. The low bid was Reliable On-Site Services at $4664.95. That'll be prorated because it was supposed to have started in April. I checked with them. You had asked about more frequency in the cleaning, if it was required or not. They aren't aware of any requirements, but their work for the county, they are giving an additional disinfecting per week. I haven't gotten that portion of the quote back yet. I could bring that to the next meeting and we could commence with it if you wanted to move in that direction. But I would like to award them the bid on this Reliable On-Site Services.
I'll move the recommendation to supervise the building and grounds.
Second.
And that is a budget line that can fund that.
That's helpful.
Although we want to try to save, too.
That's a first for tonight, but go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, there's a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays or abstention? Seeing none, motion passed.
That's all I have.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Steve.
Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Mike Sheehan? Come on up.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Good evening.
evening.
I guess the mini excavator, I think everything was good. We were, Frederick found the rest of the money that we needed. Thanks, Frederick. So that's pretty much it for the mini excavator. We have the money for it.
So 55,730, we had 43,000 for surplus, so we've got 12,730, and that's gonna come out of your DB fund, I guess 5130,0200. You have money in the account to pay for.
So,
Yes, we do.
Okay,
I have a motion to,
I'll make a motion. We approve.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed.
Okay, the next item is, it says highway trucks for paving. It's not for paving. We need salt trucks and sand trucks, plow trucks, so it's not paving. Hopefully you all got the email today of the prices of them.
Yes.
The two trucks were a little over 200,000, and the four-wheel drive is a little over 200,000. Total of the three trucks is a little over 6,000 or 600,000. So, and
What's the lead time on those, Mike?
it's probably gets too late for this season, the middle of next season. Each man has over 5 miles of road to take care of. Some have 6. We got pickups and we got small sand trucks, so it's just gonna be, hopefully it's a mild winter and we can get through it. The guys that are gonna finish their run are gonna have to all double up, so it's gonna be more time consuming and to do these runs without these trucks.
At this stage, though, even if you won't be able to get the trucks in time really for this season anyway, correct?
Nope.
How long do we have to decide how to fund these? A month?
Well, I mean, it's not gonna help us this
Right, right.
year anyway, so.
That's what I'm saying, do we
Well,
have?
as soon as possible, but
Right, right.
again, I mean, we'll manage, we're just gonna have to work harder and, I mean, we've had breakdowns before. Hopefully we don't have any breakdowns because we're gonna be down 3 trucks, so,
Right.
So we can look at this one a little later down the road then?
yeah. Well, I mean, not later, I mean, as soon as possible. It's okay, we can do them now so we can get them next year.
Right.
Yeah, you just won't be able to use them next year. Not until
Yeah,
next
no,
winter.
2021 we should be able, I mean.
Yeah, that's my
yeah,
point, but you can't use them this year and
No.
into early '21.
No, but if it's okay, we can get the ball rolling and get them out of the way because who knows, in 2 years, I think there's another truck going.
How long have we known about these trucks being needed?
It was before me, Bill. I heard it was given in with the loader. We received the loader, but I don't know whatever happened to the
We got no
trucks.
letter, I think it was last November. but-
Yeah, well, actually, earlier than that, because I think the previous highway superintendent, Mr. Patina, had put it in the budget, then it was cut.
Would have been in August or September.
Yes,
Okay.
I think
With the
there was a
budget.
memo in August of last year relating to that.
All right, I'm not against it, I just think we need to have a better picture of our revenue. Although it's a B fund situation, so it's a little more flexibility, but I think just to do the due diligence, we should take a look at this and possibly, in the month of July.
Right.
I mean,
I agree, or
Sure,
maybe at a workshop session or something like that, we can take a look at it.
yeah, I mean, I appreciate all the information. I mean, we have all the information. We know there's a need, right? I think
Right,
the question that we need to discuss is financing and see what direction the bond rates are going to.
And see how the response is to the bond that we're going to be issuing
Yeah.
for the paving, and Frederick and I will be having, in July, a call with the rating agency. So we'll see what their temperature is. So I agree with it, Bill, let's see what it goes, and we could, I could raise that as a trial balloon,
Yeah.
to them to see how they would respond if we were gonna cut off another 600,000 from the B fund,
What is the asset life for these things? Are it 20 years?
Yeah, if they're kept up, they're cleaned properly and like that, so.
So-
I agree. that
So Bill, just
we
to give
hold
you
off
an
to
idea
July
of
at this point.
roughly, it's 652,000 he asked for, assuming a 2.5%.
We don't know what's.
Over
gonna
20 years, it's $41,332.
happen.
If you go to a 2% rate, it's 39,000, so call it 40,000.
Yeah.
Either way, is a rough estimate that if we were to go forward with this at some point in time, that's what it would cost.
So I say, I can report back July 13 meeting
Yeah.
with what we
That would
find
be
out
good.
before then. Also, Mike and I don't know if it would be anything available, but Mike and I have been talking with some of their neighboring municipalities about sharing, municipal sharing type of arrangement. So if we were short a truck, then maybe, they could come to our aid. So we're talking about a mutual aid. I'll be talking with the board meeting and not too distant, maybe even July, about that. So that's something we're looking at in the backup. Mike's been
Yeah.
supportive, of that just in case we have a need.
Mike, when were the last new trucks that came in? What was it, 2 that came in?
Yeah, we got a four-wheel drive, 2 of them.
Was that like 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yep.
And that was a bond.
Right. And those were, again, the single frame, the new trucks that will last a lot longer.
Yes.
They were meeting our mechanics' needs.
I mean, I went through the trucks with mechanics, and I have to agree with them. Some of the bodies are bent, and
Well, I met with them, and of course, we got John's
Right, but
letter
plus it's a
talking about
safety
it,
thing
so.
too.
Yes,
I mean, we
it's a big
discussed that at
safety
the
thing,
last
yeah.
meeting.
Yes.
But I also agree July would be a better
Yeah.
time
Sure.
to, to still give you time for 2021,
Yep.
to meet that deadline. But I don't think tonight would be a good time.
I agree.
okay,
Thank you, though.
that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
And he stayed under his time.
Yes, actually, 3 minutes to go.
We had to fix that.
You'll
Gotta
back.
fix it.
We're going to eat it all now, because
We're
Mr.
gonna take- we're
Haran
gonna
has
give
to
it to
talk about
somebody.
highway signs in Wappinger
We're gonna
Farm.
take a 3-minute break.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Jim, it's yours, 3 minutes.
So on the side, did we come up with we're talking about the no motorized vehicle signs?
Right? Is
Right.
your sign?
Is that what we're going to go
That's
with?
that's the one he
Seems
pulled
like
up
a
for the.
simple 3-minute discussion.
Yeah, no, so I don't.
3
So
words.
we authorize funding for that out of where?
Yeah, I mean, I think well, for whatever reason, signs come out of the A fund, even for the highway department.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, good.
So, all signs come out of the A fund. So, and I think there was a discussion. I did a Google search, I found somebody who was selling them online
43 bucks
for
or something, you said?
Yeah.
$39.50
Okay.
or something. I don't think you can make them for that
How many do we
much.
need?
Well, that's the question.
So it's a white background with black lettering?
Right.
What's the,
That's what's called a regulatory sign. It's the same
Like a
coloring,
like a speed sign
like a
color.
speed limit
Right.
sign. So that's what a regulatory sign means. It means that
Right.
it has legal force and it's, there's penalties attached for violation. So,
Do we have any idea how many we need?
I would say probably, 3 per area?
Where are we
12.
intending on putting these?
The vacant land that is non-park land, correct?
correct?
So we have 11 parks, and then we have about 10 other, right, Joey? About 10 other areas, including several large parcels that would be. So if we had 3, that would be 30 approximately, or 40, right? Yeah,
So who's going to enforce this?
Barbara.
Okay.
Why? Well, you said that real quick.
Actually, the sheriff's patrol.
That's because of the new code you just got, right?
Sheriff's
under
patrol would
other.
have to enforce it.
Other responsibilities.
Is there a price reduction on?
Yes, there is.
Volume? What is it? How many signs do you need to buy to get the price reduction?
Probably only about 5, it's steps based on the volume,
All right, so,
so.
Well, not to exceed,
So
40
if
times.
there's what, 30 signs?
Yeah.
Call it $50 max, maybe?
Yeah.
So 1,500 we're talking about?
I mean, that's on the signs, not, there's, and I assume Highway's gonna put them up. I
Highway's
don't
gonna
know.
put them up.
Yes,
You
Mike
guys
will put 'em up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good at that.
all right, so, again, I'll yield to the councilman from the 4th Ward. This is his project.
Yes.
I mean, I
Okay.
think the money's probably in, I don't know what, there wasn't that much money in the sign line.
Frederick, do you know? By any chance?
I thought it said 500. I thought that was my recollection.
I don't remember. Yeah. Hey, Steve, we're roasting up here. I'm about ready to take off my jacket.
I believe somebody shut the thermostat off again during the day.
This is happening every week now. It's 98 degrees today, so let's shut off the AC before the town board meeting.
Yeah, really?
I'm starting to take it
I think
personal.
we have to have a lockbox.
That's how we're paying for these signs.
We're saving money.
We're saving money on the heat, we're gonna save it and buy the signs.
Okay, back to the sign. So let's,
He's crunching numbers back there.
Yeah,
Frederick.
he's.
Either way, I'm confident we can
Yes.
find $1,500, so Al.
Yeah,
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that we purchase 30 of these no motor vehicle signs here at no more than $1,500 in total.
Second.
motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Frederick, you can give us the line item.
Right, I do have a line here, in the Parks Department, A 7110.418 signs. The current budget is 2,000.
Oh, perfect.
Wow, that worked out, huh?
Ah,
okay.
I don't know whether you still have any other ideas for that line.
No, don't worry. Steve, if you have a need
Yeah.
for something, we'll fill it, don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna penalize you for Al's
Okay.
signs.
Okay, good. Wappinger Farms.
Wappinger Farms, we got a proposal from the developer. The developer, to move things along, had offered to pay recreation fees existing. There's 2 existing lots, one on each side of Robinson Lane. They're proposing an 11-lot subdivision for 11 new lots, or 11 lots total. So you would back out the 2 existing lots, so they would pay rec fees on 9 lots, and they would also convey or reserve a portion, they'd create a second lot for future dedication to the town, should the town in the future want to use it to.
so I thought that the information on Wappinger Farm from the engineer said that the owner pays the recreation fee for 11 of the proposed parcels.
Well, our code is for, again, new lots created. So the recreation fee, if you've got 2 lots and you've got an 11-lot subdivision, you pay the rec fee on new lots created. So if
Okay.
you've got, you've already got 1 lot, you're not, in this case, they have 2. They have 1 on each side of Robinson Lane. So
So the part that they're gonna subdivide, they get the extra, you get the
So-
lot fees on, so the 9 instead of 11?
so it's 9 instead of 11.
And it's 5,000 per?
Yes. And then they're gonna cut off, as part of the subdivision, reserve the property for the town for future dedication at such time as the town puts in a trail. But they would retain ownership. They would retain ownership and it'd be offered for dedication.
They would retain ownership.
They retain ownership of the parcel, and the town would, it's offered for dedication to the town, and a future town board would accept it at such time they wish to put in a trail. That way the town does not have to maintain it
Right.
until we put a trail on.
If we feel we should put a
Correct.
trail in
Yeah.
there, correct. Okay.
I think there's greenway opportunities here someplace. So
I agree.
I'm not going to look at this as a liability upon the town at this point. I think that after exploring this further since the last meeting, there could be some green opportunities consistent with our Greenway Pact, which would have no expense to the town but could have potential benefit.
I agree. So, we have
So
a
you want
motion.
to take the property now then as well?
No, we're not taking
No.
it now.
I don't think,
Take-
there's no action right now, correct?
Right, I mean, this is
This
just,
is informational.
This information,
Because you
right.
can do, I thought you can do either or, so you can take
well,
the
they're
lot
doing,
and the
they're
property
doing
now,
both.
or you can take,
They're going to do both. They're going to give us
Right.
the money on the
but you can
11
take the
parcels.
lot, you
right?
can take the property now, or you could take it later, or is it just, you just only take it later?
So
I
we
thought there
could
was two
take-
options.
we could take it now, but I don't think the flavor of the board is.
No, but
I
that's,
don't-
that's an option.
Right,
Okay.
I would prefer that the developer retain ownership of that
I'm
parcel.
okay with that,
I
too.
agree with you.
Do we, Jim,
agree.
need to put something to vote on, at least saying to the
Yeah,
developer
I
to
think-
encumber that property with
Yeah, I
that
mean, I think-
particular issue?
right, right.
Because, Bill, I don't want us to get in the situation that we had up here at Old Hopewell Commons with a lot, you know, and if they can't develop it, then what do we do, right? So,
True.
yeah. So I would say, you know, some motion, what would be appropriate, Jim, you know, to have
a
some sort of
motion,
notion?
I think of what it would be is, a motion to authorize the town attorney to send a letter to the planning board, accepting the proposal as outlined by the developer.
Move.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Okay. So Jim, you'll prepare
Yep.
that and get
Thanks,
it
Jim.
to-
Because that's gonna be the conditions in the resolution. We have a lot of preliminary, but not a final. Yeah. So that'll be a
Okay.
condition in the resolution of final plat approval.
Okay.
Okay, good, thank you. Okay. Tim, you want
Did I go
to
over my
discuss
time?
several items? Huh?
Do I still have time left?
Oh, you need more time?
No,
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
kidding.
Will you just burn another?
You can take it away from Tim.
Good.
So just real quick, Challenger Field bathroom, we had submitted to DOH. We have satisfied their comments, and we're poised for approval on the septic field for that. There's some final paperwork, supervisor, that we need to get signed. I think Tom, I don't know, Sandra, do you recall seeing like sets of plans for that come through?
I had signed something last week, right, didn't I?
Yeah, he dropped it off on the 17th.
Now there are plans in the mailbox? Okay,
So if we could just get those back,
okay.
we'll submit them to the DOH, and
Okay, sure.
that'll gel the approval. Then we'll be ready to go to bid on that. I mean, if you want, Joey, you got my little thing there. You know, there's a budget estimate, there's a grant that was basically a $100,000 CDBG grant, I believe, and a little bit less than that because of the bathroom that was sold. So say it's about a 95.
It's 92 and some change.
You remember what that was?
6,200, I believe.
Was off the 100,000, right? So, and then, so the big component was the prefab bathroom assembly, which was about 80,000, and then we were looking at about 60,000 in site work for the septic field. So, once we get the approval, you know, we could present to the board and see if they want to go to bid and see what the cost would be, and get things moving.
It can be done in phases, so you can do the septic field first and with connections for that.
We could look into that option. We'll have to see how the health department would view that.
Because I think the county grant is for reimbursement, and both elements were part of that, weren't they? Or we can look into that and see.
I was going toward the estimate there, Joe, but that's
Let's-
basically the layout. The other file was the estimate.
Tim, when we were looking at the prefab, did they have room for adult changing?
Yes, we got that ironed out.
Okay, all right,
So there'll be one in each bathroom,
perfect.
men's and women's, so.
Thank you.
So that's Challenger. If you want to, sorry, Joe, you're a little slow in the uptake over there. If you want to jump to Spook Hill, again, we presented on what we'll call like our schematic design level plan. We've worked with the committee. We've looked at it in 3 phases. The site work, hopefully by highway, which would be that parking lot and allow for ADA access. Phase 2, the building modifications, the ADA bathrooms, a new roof, and sort of like an overhang for a picnic area. And then the final phase 3 would be the track and exercise equipment, which would be down the road. Now, we've always tried to purport that the more work the town can do, obviously, the further the money will go. I think we have a bid estimate, if this were to be publicly bid. I can't read that from here. But we're at roughly, I mean, the whole project all in with the track and field was 345,000. But if you just looked at the phase 1 with the building and the parking lot, we're just under 100,000.
Yeah, I think we have to just look at the phase 1
Yeah,
right
we just
now
be
because
looking
of the
at-
monies and to get that moving along.
And that would be through the
Right.
CDBG grant, but
Right.
again, reimbursement, I
All right.
believe, so.
Randy, did you have any comments, that you want to make?
We do have 100,000 grant, plus we've got about 60,000 more in the foundation. Plus we got about 40,000 that's still out there waiting for us to begin.
So what Randy's referring to are donations that we have. We recall we created the 501c3 in order to house those monies. So we're looking at approximately $200,000 that would be able to go toward that and maybe more. Randy's been very successful, very good at, going out there, and not just on this, but on other initiatives and we'll, maybe when Kevin's up, just talk briefly. Everybody saw about the Veterans Memorial Highway that, again, Randy and Kevin had pushed for, and we got Senator Serino and Assemblyman Lawler to really support that aggressively.
So we were working on our schematic level plan to submit for a building permit, so that would be detailed enough to acquire that. And then once that's in place, we would initiate a discussion with the county, and we would like a town representative to be our clerk of the works, and internally, we want to nominate Frederick, because basically, it would be somebody that monitors the expenditures through the project and has to file for reimbursement with the county. But we would, if it's okay with Frederick and the board, if there's somebody else,
Sure.
Whatever. But we want to get that teed up so that we can initiate a discussion with the county with a town liaison.
So what I'd like to suggest is to have a resolution tonight, that would deal with the parking lot, that exterior fence area, to get that going because of grant monies, and who knows what the condition's going to be with the county, and not the best of financial condition. And to get that moving along, we do have some, extra monies, that could be used. We can look at the bathroom. So I'd like to say that we authorize going ahead with respect to the parking lot highway element, looking at how we can best maybe do that internally. And then to the extent that there's monies there, then Steve, I know he has a long list of things, but can start queuing up how to remediate the bathroom to be ADA compliant. Those are the 2 elements that I'd like to see tonight. And we do have some monies that Randy has if there's overage of that $100,000.
Steve, you're okay, right? Yes. You have any questions or anything? You? Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're talking about Spook Hill, I mean.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was still on Robinson. I get it.
Okay,
Well, do the best we can.
thank you. And Frederick, you're good to be our liaison?
So regarding the school here, the budget is 345,000, and it's 100,000 grant, and then a 60, and then from the foundation, and then another 40 from the 501c. That is the funding. So we can certainly do the accounting for the spending,
We had accepted that before, yeah, and signed for that a year ago, I think was the timing of that. And the board had a resolution authorizing that at the time. So Frederick, at this point in time, we're not talking about the total of 345,000 because we're not talking about building out the interior field and doing any of that work yet. We're talking, and the county grant does not apply to that. The county grant would apply only to ADA compliance, which includes, the parking lot for all vehicle access, the fence, and the bathroom facility is what was allocated by the county, not the field itself.
All right, so for the phase one with $100,000, for $100,000, I'm assuming that when we start maintaining the records and start making the payment, we are going to get money from the foundation and the 501c as reimbursement for the payments we made for the phase one?
The county first.
County first, right?
Yeah, well, the county, again, is reimbursement only, so we would have to authorize money to be spent in order to get reimbursed, for it. But that $100,000 is in the grant, the grant that we got from the county. As I understand it, correct, Tim?
What do you estimate, I can't read it from here, estimate getting the bathroom done?
It was right around 97,000 for the parking lot and the bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So that's the phase we're looking at right now?
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Exactly.
proposing to.
All right, move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, that motion passed. Thank you. And then we'll come back later.
And the last one I had was Mark's Memorial, working with Kevin and Steve. We worked through a couple different renderings, and in the interest of time, if you want to just look at the final one there, Joey. It's basically, I had one of our landscape architects just sort of come up with a graphic of, an idea, and I think, working with Kevin and Steve, it's kind of hard to see. I don't know if you could zoom in on the aerial on the left.
As you'll recall, the current is dilapidated, in a serious state of repair or rebuild.
But basically, the existing one is over on the left side there, and this would kind of relocate the memorial toward the entranceway. And it's aligned so that as you're walking up the path, you're sort of going to see the full-on view, from a skewed side, it looks like, but it's really going to be oriented so that you can see the memorial. And then with that, we prepared a budget as if it were going to be big. I know originally, Steve, we had talked about doing it in-house, but that would be another to-do item for Steve, so I don't know where that falls. We're at about 19,000 if it was to be big.
I've discussed with Assemblyman Lawler, who's expressed a strong interest in this project and would, make efforts to try to get some funding for us as well, as I think Senator Serino would too.
Assemblyman Lawler had quite a background on
Yes.
this fallen member of service. I think it was part of our Memorial Day
That's
service.
correct.
Right.
I only happened to see what he posted on his
Yeah, he
page
posted
for-
it verbatim.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Certainly a reminder that we need to continue to remember these individuals. So would this be funded, besides any grants or anything like that, would this be an operational expense or a Parkland Trust expense?
I say it Parkland Trust, and Steve, to the extent he can get his crews on it, would help reduce some of that cost.
So
Materials and, would be a main factor.
So 19K is the max for this?
Well, it's just a budget estimate based on the materials and,
And that's not having Steve do it, correct?
no, this was the worst
Yeah.
case.
Worst case.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we approve the up to $19,000 for the update for the memorial over there at Mart's Field.
A second.
Is everybody okay with the relocation of that to where proposed? I think that's
Yeah.
the best spot, actually.
Yeah, because if you go-
Assemblyman Lawler also liked it. I was out there, you were out there.
I've been out there, and where it is today, I mean, there's cars that park in front of it, you can't really even see it, and
Right.
everything's falling apart, so.
Yeah, I think it's a bad spot where it's at right now. It's
Right.
more
I
of
agree.
more of a gateway approach when you're walking into the park and it's there facing you. On the question though of the motion, did you specify where the funding's gonna come from?
Parkland Trust.
Land Trust?
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Kevin, you want to, I forgot to ask you, any other comments on that?
No, it's working out just fine.
While I'm talking with you, would you just give a brief update of the board, you and Randy, and just say a couple words with respect to the Veterans Memorial Highway? What's next?
Once the governor signs the bill that both houses have proposed, then Randy was in communication with a fellow by the name of Goff, and he's from the DOT, the state DOT. They're going to pick the best site. We have a couple of sites in mind. We're going to work with them, and they're going to cover all the costs. We're going to, when things start rolling, we'll plan things
Right.
out and bring it to the attention of the board.
And we also have a couple other businessmen and women along Route 9 into town that are very interested in also helping cover other costs that we might have, or beautification and some other initiatives. I've talked with a couple. Randy, I believe, has talked with a couple. So we have a tremendous amount of interest in this project.
Isn't there a committee about this? Isn't it a veterans committee that you guys have?
Not really.
Okay, well, I strongly
Well,
suggest.
there is, but we really haven't.
two
had
of
a
them,
meeting.
Okay, but I
What we did was we went to,
well, I've spoken to you about it
Yes.
also.
and
But
we-
I strongly suggest that
Just
we
seems
include that on our website, because there's quite a few veterans in the area
Oh, of course,
that would be very interested in that, and to put the contact information out there.
Right.
definitely, without a
Okay.
doubt. Without
And
And
I'm
if there's anybody that anybody knows.
Well, if
they
you
can
haven't done
forward
so
the names.
already, if you haven't done so already, I'm sure loop in the VFW and American Legion.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm sure
right.
Ray Chase would want to be all over this too.
Everybody will get involved.
And we've talked
Yeah, but we
also
have
about,
to get it out there, so that would be a
Oh,
good thing.
definitely,
yeah,
without a
and
doubt.
we've talked about Castle Point too,
Exactly.
Angela, as well.
No, I
So
know,
Randy
right.
has-
Yeah, I don't think we have a time crush.
Yeah.
You know, once the governor signs it, then we can start moving.
Well, it
And
would be
we
good
have
to
a
get
lot of
the
things in-
information out there too, so people can,
Right. Oh, definitely.
sign up. So,
Definitely.
you know,
Well, we have 5% of the emails in the system so that we can, we
Wow.
can advertise it to 5%.
But I think, calling, as the councilwoman suggested, calling for some volunteers, other interests, we've
right.
publicized the, passing of the
Right.
legislation, but I
Right.
think taking the next step is what she's
Exactly.
talking about.
You
Okay.
want the community to be involved. They've seen it in the paper. Put it
Yeah.
out there on our website so you guys get credit and we get more help in.
Okay,
Because it'll be beneficial to everybody and more
Right.
ideas.
And related to that, we've also been talking about veterans from the point of view of a mobility perspective, and we have had, I mentioned it before, and I have had ongoing discussions, including with Senator Serino and Assemblyman Lawler, and also Congressman Maloney, about sidewalks and access points, that would be able to be used not just by veterans, but certainly disabled people, but also all residents going up and down Route 9, including crosswalks that are protected within the town. The village has done a good job. We need to do a better job, so
And
that's an element.
I'd like to be on that committee too, as you
Sure.
well know.
pardon me?
I would like to be on that committee, as you
Yes.
well know. Okay, thank you.
If I can just say one thing, Kevin and Randy, seeing this in the headlines certainly was monumental to me and many that saw this. Often doing work behind the scenes on these types of projects, sometimes they don't see the light of day. But to get Assembly and Senate support on this, I have no doubt the governor will sign this. Might be a little bit of a delay because of the funding situation, obviously, on the state level, but we're talking about a corridor that not only passes by Major Joseph W. McDonald Memorial Park, which was the first POW MIA park in the United States, also passes by the Mark Palmatier Memorial, also the first soldier to die in the War on Terror in Dutchess County. To have that corridor within our town, which runs parallel to the Route 9D corridor, which is named for the POW MIA, those that did not return, and to also be the home of the Veterans Memorial Mile here on the walkway over the Hudson, or excuse me, the rail trail, Dutchess County Rail Trail, is certainly, we may not even realize the significance at this moment, but it will be certainly a legacy for this town. So my personal thanks for your hard work on this.
And I received also a request by Robert Rubin, today about getting the Jewish Veterans Organization involved, and I think we'll see plenty others, back to the councilwoman's point. But I agree with you, Bill. And as soon as we can come out of COVID-19 and do the 5K race, I think
Looking
that
into the
would be
fall.
good. And then the fall, but start planning for that so we look at it.
Yeah,
Sure.
we had that totally set up.
Yeah, all set
It was
up.
ready to rock and roll, so we'll just move it out 8 months,
Hopefully.
6 months.
It almost became the COVID-19 mile race.
Exactly.
Almost to the day. Almost to the day. Well, thank you again,
Sure.
and Randy and everybody else. who's
Really,
put a
thank
lot
you.
of time in the
All right, I would
board
like
for the full
to,
support.
for about 30 seconds, revisit the hometown heroes.
Okay, sure.
I left about 4 pages of information in front of each one of you. Not that we need to discuss it, but I've made an awful lot of progress. So at a subsequent or upcoming town board meeting,
Well, we could plan July 13th if,
Fine.
tentatively to do that, so we can
Right.
look at the materials and get back and,
good.
and
Give you
Angela can,
feedback and all
and
that
Angela
kinda
can
stuff.
also, be liaising with you too,
We'll chat.
okay?
Thank you. for
Thank
the-
you again, gentlemen.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
information,
Okay,
guys, really.
so, report back to
Seriously.
the Spook Hill Committee that we're a go, okay, Randy? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Next item for the Safety, Health, Environment Advisory Council, I'd like to propose to just table that for now so we can have more time to read it. And,
I
although
agree.
you've had it for a month, but we have some other things that are going to take some time, but I'd like to just dedicate a little bit more time and some other related things to it. So I would move myself as chair, to table that.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Okay, the next resolution, again, I want to discuss some of this related to that in executive session.
So I'll make a motion that we table it
Thank you.
to
Second.
an executive session.
Okay,
Second.
motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is one Mr. Haran and I have discussed. We got the letter. Why don't you summarize it?
So this is the, dealing with the parcel that was the well parcel for Tall Trees. At the
Is
time.
it one or two parcels, Jim?
That, I believe, is one parcel. And then there's, well, I guess
Hill.
the 2 parcels in the back at the hill where the storage tank was. They were technically rec parcels.
But one is truly unalienable up top, right?
Right. And
This
one,
one's okay.
one I think is just an easement.
Right.
It's a rec, it's a strange, but, this parcel, when we were looking at, originally doing the work in Tall Trees, Bob Gray had done an investigation, and thought for subdivision purposes, you could probably get 2 buildable lots out of it. There is an offer to purchase the property, with a condition, in essence, that it's, would be restricted, the development of the property would be restricted and, reserve it as permanent open space. The other option, of course, would be that the town sells it fair market value for somebody to develop it. I think for purposes of what to look at for the town board, the town board has an obligation. It's surplus property at this point in time. It was never reserved as parkland, so we don't need any alienation approval from Albany to sell the property. However, what the town board should do is get an appraisal for the property to see what would be appropriate to the sale price. And I think in light of the offer, I think the appraisal should look at it 2 ways. One, if the board was going to sell it for outright development, or if the board sold it with restrictions in place. So, appraiser can do that, but regardless of the disposition of the property, whether you sell it with restrictions or sell it without restrictions, the town board needs to have, an appraisal.
How much property are we talking about here?
There's about 2 acres, I think.
2 acres?
Closer to, I think it's.
Maybe, is it more than 3?
So
I don't know.
It's closer to 3. I think you can, maybe it's 2 acres.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
around
I
2.
think
So,
And the
Bob-
pump station, the well is totally decommissioned.
Correct.
You know, Tim, right? You know, you supervise, you guys supervise that too.
there,
Bob.
there are some lines, we would
Right.
probably wind up having, reserve an easement for some of the lines on the property when it's sold. But
And you
other
have
than
the
that-
water main that goes through
Right,
that
exactly.
property too.
So, there would be a reservation, and all of those things would be, so that would be the terms.
I think the idea, I believe that the proposal is made because it's the historic district trying to maintain, some of the beauty on it. And I would say, for purposes of this, although I guess it's probably not necessary, but make sure that there's no questions. I will recuse myself from voting since it's a neighbor. I have nothing to do with this and not involved, but I just
I make a
want to make
motion
sure.
that we have it appraised.
Yeah.
And
A
give the
second.
feedback.
Well, on the question, I'm just curious to know when we decided we were gonna sell this.
Right.
Because I've gotten 3 letters from that individual asking why I'm not responding to his offers, but I never got the memo that we were selling this property.
Right.
Did we come to a consensus that we were selling this?
No, that's what I think the discussion.
No, I mean, I guess that's the
Yeah.
question ultimately
Yeah.
is, for purposes of an appraisal, I mean, I don't.
Right, but I mean, I have residents over there that are concerned that we're going to sell this property, and it's gonna become, potentially, another building lot. I understand that, the individual that has shown interest in it has expressed that it would be, left open space, but then my question would be, why are we selling it to begin with? Why wouldn't we, entertain a recreational parcel there? There's never been a playground in Tall Trees, there's never been anything in Tall Trees. So wouldn't we wanna explore those options first before we're trying to unload a parcel?
Oh, I agree, yeah.
Yeah,
I
certainly.
think it would be advantageous to us just to even have an appraisal. We don't have to do anything with it, but just so we have it, maybe in the future. But I agree with you.
The other 2 parcels that are up on the top there, or whatever they are considered, that to me also is an opportunity for a potential project to run water to the top
Yes,
of Montclair.
exactly.
Right.
That's right.
And by selling that property,
That piece is not on the table. And
Okay.
Yeah,
those
that's
are-
not at all. We're not,
those
For that
are-
reason, Bill.
Those are recreation.
Yeah.
Those are dedicated
We can't
Those were
alienate 'em.
recreation, so you'd need alienation language from,
right now, we have a
Authority.
situation at Montclair Townhouse that
Yes.
they're an independent water system that is not fire rated. We have like 37 apartment buildings up there that sometimes keep me up at night, and if there's a major fire up there, because there's no fire-rated hydrants in that area. So we have an opportunity, in my opinion, to at least run a fire hydrant up to the top of the hill for emergency purposes. That's something that.
That's
Yeah, and I've
I
asked
agree
the
with
town
that.
engineer to
That's-
look into that, Bill.
that's a
you know,
safety
both
thing by all
water and
means,
fire.
So that said, that's
Yeah.
a conversation for
Right.
another day. However, I will support your motion to do the appraisal, but I think we
But
need to.
that's it, yeah.
I think we need to have a
Yeah.
conversation after
Yeah, I
that.
agree.
On what the future use could be.
And further to that, Bill, I would like to have that conversation, look at some other parcels.
Sure.
Right? I mean, we have a lot of surplus, land that's not being used. Of course, we have issues with some which we're addressing with, signs, but we never had, at least in recent time,
Right.
looking at and re-examining those parcels. So it could be part of a bigger, review.
and there are a number of parcels that were water or sewer facilities that the town had, over the years, had abandoned the facilities to go to a central system, so.
Bill, I agree with you 100% about the water at Montclair and the people.
Oh, yes.
That needs to be fixed
Yeah,
as
so
soon as
that-
possible.
that we're working on.
That's very important.
So
And
that-
thank you to bringing it to our attention.
Sure,
Thank
it's
you.
something that needs to be addressed. It's not gonna be an easy thing,
No,
trust me.
but it has to be addressed.
That said, I will support the resolution, but let me just say this. Right now, by us owning the property, it does allow us somewhat of a buffer between the development and the historic
Sure.
district that you are adjacent to.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there a motion, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all abstentions or nays? No, and I recuse myself. Okay. Let's see, I got that one done. So, Chris, you wanted to talk about parks.
Yeah, thank you for Jessica. She gave out some of the playground equipment we were looking at. As you know, last year I brought up Quiet Acres. The playground probably hasn't been touched in 30 years. along with many of the other ones. I've given you guys a list. I just, from what I've been around seeing and talking with Steve where we're at, our parks are in dire shape from the playground point of view. I'm requesting to go forward. First, I've got to ask Jim, are these bids acceptable for installation based on the New York State contract?
Yeah, so the installation would be separate from, because my understanding is the installation on state bid or not on state bid?
The installation isn't on state bid, but this is another situation where you only have a certain number of certified
Right.
installers for warranty purposes on
It-
this
It's under,
program.
and it's under the threshold, you know, because you're not, so it's a public works contract. In essence, the equipment being purchased on the state bid is 21,000. You're not, in this case, you wouldn't total the two of them. So you're just looking at the 9,000 or
So
the 10,000.
this is something we had looked at the end of last year.
Right.
As the supervisor knows, when we were walking around, we never realized how Quiet Acres has developed. It's a young community. It needs something, and I'm proposing to go ahead with Jessica's proposal on this playground.
I do have to re-verify the prices. He hasn't gotten back to me
Right.
yet. These are only about a month and a half old, so I would be surprised if there was much of a change to them. But we just needed to make sure that we could go through the process in this manner without having to go to bid for the installation. So at the next meeting, I would be asking for the allocation from Parkland. And then, of course, sitting down with having Steve and the installer and Councilman Phillips and myself work out the project.
So I don't know if we need a resolution. Is there any questions to go forward with pursuing this? I'm proposing to bring it out of Parkland Trust. I know we've got a ton of, you go to Castle Point, people don't even know.
Well, we have
where
7 playgrounds in the town.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the condition is for all of them, so.
So you're just looking at Quiet Acres right now?
Yes,
And that was approximately, what, about 34, 35,000?
Correct.
About a month and a half, 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think it'd be appropriate to just make the resolution at this meeting if it's coming out of Parkland Trust.
So let me just, so you're looking at a $21,000 playground with a $10,000 installation? That doesn't seem expensive to anyone here?
Considering if you look at something the size of what we did at Mart's, those were $100,000 playgrounds. And at Robinson, that was a $100,000 playground. What we're looking at here, which there isn't a picture representation of it because you actually can't get them, is a multi-bay swing set with a toddler swing that has the adult and toddler swing on it. The reason you can't get a picture of that is because nowadays it's build your own, so they tell you how many bays and then how many swings. This is an upgrade from what was there. It was just a standalone slide. This is a multi-age unit with, when you're looking at a playground equipment, you're looking for a couple ways up, couple way down, and then some ground level activities for smaller children. And this does incorporate all that.
What's the foundation? Does this cost apply for the foundation, being the padding, the rubber
mulch and
chip, the
everything,
mulching
yes.
and everything?
Yeah, that's actually quoted under the installation price.
Have, you or Chris talked with the residents? Is this what they have in mind?
It has been, from what
Okay,
Councilman
I
Phillips
just-
says.
I have.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So have you priced this, back to the councilman's question, compared to other similar types of
This-
equipment?
This is actually a good deal for something of this intricacy. I know it sounds like a weird word to use for playgrounds. Playground design has moved away from just having a slide, a swing set. They usually are units that are more engaging and have several different components to them, which is what this piece of equipment has.
And is there a warranty on this? How long do they warrant it to last?
That we would have to, I have the paperwork on
Okay.
that, I just don't have that one with me.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know
Yeah.
what that is.
And a lot of that is, again, based off on having it done by a certified installer.
Right.
I did bring up with Steve and Jim the installation. We could obviously do it ourselves, but then we're liable on an insurance point, which is
And a
why
lot
we
of,
get an installer.
Well, I think
It
for
negates
something like this, it's
warranties.
better to have somebody that's certified
Correct.
to install it.
yeah.
Right.
rather
and
than
And
us do
include the
that.
warranty too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Well,
it-
the other thing
stair
too
falls
is, I
off
think, if the installer will do it, if not our inspector, I think after the inspection is done, or installation is done, somebody should sign off, you know,
Right.
that
Yeah, I
it's
agree.
it's safe
Great.
for
Safety.
Oh, I
liability
agree.
purposes.
We could have our.
We can have our
inspector do it
independent
as an
inspector
yeah,
look at it.
exactly.
And I think that should be, you know, included in, I don't know, what would he charge to do that?
We have him on an annual stipend, we would just work it into.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, so,
yeah, so that would, I mean, and, you know, as far as the pricing goes, you know, this is typical state bid, so it's, you know, there's an $11,000 discount in here.
yeah. And a lot of times you can find non-commercial grade equipment for cheaper. You can find more at-home type of things. We're not looking for something like that. I mean, I have, not to throw her information out here, but I have a friend who installed a beautiful wood playground in her backyard. It cost almost as much as this playground that we're looking to put in at Quiet Acres. And that was for at-home use. So,
How many different playground type layouts did you look at?
I looked at several that were the freestanding units, so instead of doing the expansive ground, because we don't have a lot of footprint to work with there due to drainage issues. So what would fit best in the space that we had? And this was one of the nicer ones that we could fit into that space without having a higher price point.
We had CPL take a look at the property, and as with the rest of our properties, it's all wetland.
Yeah.
So the footprint that it's on is what we have to use.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but
We had actually been looking at an expansion and moving to a different part of the property to be able to do something a little more of a comprehensive rehab of this part, but we're stuck in the footprint that we have.
Can I just add, and I think we have another Ward 3, member here too, that, during, the past, this has a lot of discussion among residents, a lot of inquiries, a lot of concern. And so, with that neighborhood changing with a lot more young people, I think it is worthwhile to proceed. And I have talked with Jessica and Chris, and I feel that price is, reasonable, especially under a state contract. So I recommend we go ahead and get that in place, subject to you confirming the
quote,
cost.
yeah. Something that, when you're shopping for playgrounds, that can become a little misleading is there's a lot of deals, there's a lot of, oh, we'll give you 50% funding on this. None of that applies to things when you have to purchase either through competitive bidding or state bid.
Do you know any other parks that have used this?
This company, no, this is actually a Playcore company. Playcore pretty much owns, I would say 80% of any other
But
things that you
any
work
local
with.
municipalities like East
anybody
Fishkill,
have-
Fishkill.
We have
We
this,
have, yeah. Playcore.
but is there anybody else besides us, like in the county, that has used this?
I haven't checked
Or
on
what
that
do they
one.
use? You know, what does the
Yeah.
county use?
Yeah.
What did they use at Bodwin Park?
Yeah.
What is the vendor they use there?
I
That
can
would
check-
be
I can
that
check
would
with
be
that.
very good
Yeah,
information
yeah. 'Cause,
to compare with this.
Like I was saying, Playcore, they have so many subsidiaries. So a different subsidiary of Playcore, which is Game Time, who tend to be a little more expensive. They do larger play systems. They're actually who did the Martsfield and the Robinson Lane playgrounds.
Thank you. I just think if we
Yeah.
could look into maybe what the county did too.
I guess the
What
one
they've used.
question also, does the installation include, so to put this in, do you have to remove the existing playground?
That's a really
That we
nice
would have
one
to
at
do
Bodwin
ourselves.
Park.
Okay.
Pull out the
Oh,
existing
so we'd have to take the old one down?
Yeah, you don't want it there.
No, my point is that so it's gonna go in the same place where the new one's gonna go?
Correct.
So Steve or somebody from his team would have to take it down? I'm sorry, what's that?
I wasn't gonna put it that way. But they did a fabulous job taking out the other playground when we built a new one, so I think it's fun for them. They get to
I think the
knock
sooner we
stuff
can take
around.
that one down, the better, more
Yes.
safe that
Yeah,
environment is.
Safety issue over there?
it is a safety
Yeah.
issue.
Yes, there is one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Chris, did you want to go on any other parks, or do you want me to jump right in today's home
I've given
fields.
out, I mean, we could spend all night long looking at the parks, and I.
So point of order,
List.
are we gonna have a motion now or wait till July 13th? What's your preference, Mr. Councilman?
I'd like to make a motion that we allow Jessica to confirm the up to $35,000 from the Parkland Trust for Quiet Acres Park.
I'll second that, Chris.
And then we had other questions you can inquire, but assuming they'll all come back, but
Yeah.
you can coordinate with me and the councilman in case there are issues.
Yeah, and
But
definitely Steve.
Since there's a motion and second, any
Definitely,
further
Steve.
discussion?
What do we, restate the motion, are we buying
Restate,
this
Chris.
now, or are you researching something?
We're allowing Jessica to confirm up to $35,000 out of Parkland Trust to put this particular playground in.
And I was just wondering if we could give further feedback on other playgrounds in the county, especially since the county has used, to do a comparison.
Yeah, and also,
Plus
if
warranty.
for
Right,
some
and
reason-
warranty, that's what I would like to see done.
I promise not to go rogue. If we approve this tonight and for some reason, some other information came to light, I'm not gonna go, ha, and buy a
Well, no,
playground.
I think
You know what
you-
I mean? So
Well, no, that
we can
wouldn't be
always
a
go back.
prudent business
Yes,
decision to do.
exactly. Exactly.
That will come back.
Yeah, so I think that even if we do approve it tonight, if anything, were to change significantly, we
So would
would
you
come back
prefer
to
to
the
wait?
board.
I would prefer to wait to July. It's just a couple weeks,
That's fine.
and you could gather the information we need.
Sure.
And, maybe we can apply it to other parks that may be in need of.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
had mentioned this to Councilman Phillips today. Castle Point's next on my wish list.
What-
of
Castle
new
Point
equipment.
needs a lot.
What is the
But-
lead time for getting this and installing?
Generally, and it's gonna depend now that they're coming out of a season of not having been able to install things. When we were originally discussing this, it was about a month out. It's not a huge turnaround
Right.
time to get these.
Because I'll tell you, with
started.
doing the fence over Robinson Lane, it's a 9 to 10 week turnaround time, so.
It's surprisingly not that long with these projects.
But you don't know.
But
I
we
mean,
don't
look
know.
how
We
things
don't,
turn
yeah.
around. It's like swimming
Right.
pools, as Barbara will tell
Yeah.
you. Nobody can build
Exactly.
one now.
Because what could have happened now is everyone who was in the queue for their installation, when there were restrictions that they couldn't install, were bumped behind them.
It's like your hairdresser. You're moving up.
Yes.
And I know everybody can relate to that.
So again, I just go back, Councilman's preference. I mean, I
I missed
defer
the
to
old
your
hair.
preference,
It was
Chris.
good.
I'll default to the councilwoman and we'll.
Just for a couple weeks.
So July 13th,
You wanna go
Is
July
that okay?
13th,
Thank
you okay
you.
with that?
I mean, we're very
Thank
much
you.
at the
Yeah.
home stretch of
Okay.
this
Right.
anyway. It's
So then I'll prepare a resolution for the 13th.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, please.
Yes.
I would prefer to see other options if they exist.
You're gonna bring those in, right?
I can, yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
I mean,
I've asked you to ask around.
I'll yield to the councilman's recommendation,
Right.
but I just think it'd be good if we had a few different ones to look at and see the price differences.
Yeah,
and-
I honestly, I have looked, Jessica has worked hard on it. She's showed me a lot of options and
Yeah, I've seen them too, but I just don't remember what they are. That was a little while back.
And the
But I agree,
warranty
Bill.
would
I
be
mean, that's fine.
important.
Yes,
The
and
warranty would
Just
be
get it all
important.
together
You
and
don't want
have a package.
a slide to
No.
fall off with a
Yeah.
5-year-old going down.
And there
know,
is,
God
I just
forbid.
didn't bring.
What's a
since we're
rain
talking
wheel?
money. A rain wheel? You turn it and it makes the raindrop sounds. It's like it's either, I don't remember whether that's on
Okay,
the ground level.
we can discuss more later, but let's
Sorry,
move on.
you're about
We
to get
never
into
had one of
child
those.
development information, which I could just go on
Okay.
about
Okay.
forever. So,
Thank you.
all right, so the other thing that I had, which is super, super quick, I was asked to speak on the reopening of the ball fields. We have had, I stopped counting at 175, but in the past 48 hours, we have had 175 time slot requests for use at Robinson Lane since we are reopening. So that's really good news. We were very worried that a facility that we had been beginning to turn a good revenue on to help support that park was going to be somewhat decimated this year. And I can tell you, as of this moment, we have about $6,000 that's on its way for field revenue, and another $3,000 worth of people that I'm trying to get squeezed into different parts of the schedule. So that'll put us around $9,000, which is only $2,000 short of last year. With a super abbreviated season, that's not bad. That's,
So Steve, are you ready to open up? You've been doing a lot of maintenance work out there, but how are you
Yeah, I've
sitting?
been in touch with the Little League president, and I think we're looking at the end of the week. I gotta get out there and turn the water on, but pretty much everything else has been in place
Yeah.
throughout the season.
And Little League's been doing a lot of maintenance out there just because once you aren't ahead of it, it's, can become a lot of work. So they have still been doing a lot of their infield maintenance and things out there.
So is Little League, what's the outcome now? Is Little League gonna happen or not?
Little League is doing a modified season. The kids need to get out there and play. It's not your standard Little League season, because right about now.
They're gonna start practice
Yeah,
first, is
yeah.
what.
Right, but my understanding is Little League doesn't run during the summer. Little League runs during the spring.
Correct.
Yeah.
They go into All-Stars
Spring
about
and, spring and
July.
fall.
Right, so
Yeah.
my understanding is the summer months, there is no Little League because people go on vacations and things like
Only
that.
all-stars, but yeah.
So what would be occurring during July and August?
With Little League, they are taking their season and it's kind of pushed back from when it would have started. So they would have started in April. And all of the Little League organizations aren't running necessarily towards the official Little League schedule, because what's happening is you're not gonna have those same kinds of end-of-season things that should be happening now, happening in August. I think that it's gonna be a very informal season for them, just to get
Very
the
shortened
kids out
season, like
there.
Major League
Yeah.
Baseball,
I
if
just
they ever
don't,
start.
I still don't even understand how they're gonna even have anything, because if people have vacations planned in July and August, right, Little League would be over by that time, correct?
Typically, yes.
Yeah, so how are they gonna have anything? Because, Little League teams are not gonna be playing other teams if there's not seasons going on in other,
There's not a league.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, my question would be, and maybe you don't have the answer to it, is Little League going to happen? That's my question. I understand the way things work, and I'm on the conference calls, and I hear them talk about practice is allowed to happen as long as you're not formed up as
Right.
a team. You know, you can have a
It's-
random toss of the ball out there, but you can't be wearing uniforms,
Until
you know.
phase one.
Well,
Right,
they-
until phase 4, which is July 7th, which would be past the end date of
yeah,
Little League.
Yeah.
So that would be my question. And then my second question would be, if Little League doesn't happen this year, are we obligated to provide any funding?
Well, the contract has been given to the board for review. It hasn't been signed yet.
So that's a conversation we'll have to
Well,
have
we
at
need
some
to have,
point.
yeah.
I mean, I think we can prorate something based on the work they've done out there, but if there's no program, there's no funding. I mean, that would be the bottom line.
I agree, yeah.
My follow-up question would be relative to summer camp. Since we're not having summer camp, my understanding is we still have the summer camp director. Is that correct?
We do to help us run through the virtual programming and additional activities that we are going to be running this summer. We had spoken at a previous town board meeting about going through with online, independent, and field work kind of activities through the summer, some of which are free, some of which are paid. And we have, right now we're working on there's about 5 themes that we're working through and about 112 activities.
That's what you've handed us. and
Yes, yes.
Chris and I had looked at,
Yeah.
at least I know I did, I think Chris did too.
Yeah.
I just think we need to be very cognizant on if we have a summer camp director working and we don't have summer camp, how do we answer to the taxpayers why we have a summer camp director? So I think we need to have very specific, definitive,
Job description, yeah.
well, we have the job description, but I think we would be able to have, you know, this is good what you gave us, but I mean, I'm gonna wanna know how many people are participating in this virtual
Oh,
summer camp.
absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and, is there a charge for the virtual summer camp? Is there,
There's a couple of different things that are happening. Some of them are community-wide themes that we're coming up with, activities that are not paid, but they're gonna be run through online and through social media. Things in Parks and Recreation Month to get people out into our parks, nature scavenger hunts, things like that, that are done independently with the family. Then you have other weeks that are paid, such as the Family Camp Out Week, in which we put together a supply kit, everything that they will need to, with their family at home, engage in all of these activities for that theme. And then, you know, we're really trying to, because this is the first time that online and virtual summer programming has ever been piloted, not just by us, but by anyone, really mixing the opportunities that people have. It is a little bit of an experiment. This is something that I've talked about with other recreation directors in other towns. Nobody's ever done this before because none of us have ever had to do it before.
So is there any participation at all in this program?
It hasn't gone public yet.
Okay.
It hasn't gone public yet.
So it's more experimental to kind of get it ready for the next month or two?
Yeah, to get into the summer season. Now, what we've got planned through here is stuff that is quick on the go. So there are aspects of this that if you said yes to it, it could be going next week. It's, you know, programs to science, literacy, outdoor, nature, promoting our parks, family interaction, cooperation, trying to hit on every kind of child development and family development aspect that you can hit on.
Sorry to interrupt, but back to the
Sure.
councilman's question, then, do you have defined a division of responsibilities, what you're doing? You know, because a lot of your programs aren't, none of them are around, you know, what she would be doing, how does that work out, right? I think that's kind of what Bill's asking for, among some other things, but, you know, how
Yeah, I
does this
agree.
line up? Who's doing what? You know, how do we justify it?
So from the planning perspective, we're really working on this cooperatively, again, because it's something that's never been done before. But in terms of the implementation, once we begin going, the majority of that's going to be Cheryl. So collecting, preparing, packing, and distributing for things where people need to pick up, doing work in the park to set up things for scavenger hunts and some of the other activities that are in here. We've got a couple of programs that involve video instruction. So I tend to be the editing side of that, but she would be doing that. We have a community feature unit in here, which involves going out and involving local organizations, police, fire, post office, town government, things like that, teaching about community. So she would be doing the outreach to those individuals to coordinate getting their participation in the program.
Have you gotten any feedback from any of the parents on what they would like their kids to be doing this summer? Have we put out a questionnaires or something online for the parents to provide what they're looking for, considering they've been with their children since March?
Yes, and that's part of why what you see, we didn't, but I have spoken to a lot of people in the community, and Cheryl has a really tight finger on the pulse of people because she's very involved in the school district.
But they
So-
haven't been in school, so that's why I'm.
Oh, no,
wondering.
she, with all the families, she active
Okay.
with that. So, one of the things that we found is they are looking for things to get out, all right, to get out into the world. So to try to find a balance of virtual and physical activities, because there is a small amount of virtual burnout that has happened coming off of the distance learning aspect of the end of the school year. So making sure that this is not purely a program where they are going to be looking at a computer screen. They are going to be doing. They are going to be going out. And then the other portion that is important to mention is the Hudson Valley Leisure Association has a program called AMP for Camp, where all the different municipalities contribute towards the summer curriculum. So meaning we would submit everything that we did into their curriculum, they would submit everything into that curriculum, and we can also all feed off of each other's programs and do that as a multi-community collaborative, which includes right now LaGrange, Pauling, East Fishkill, and I believe Town of Poughkeepsie. So
Might want to ask Beacon also.
I don't, Beacon's not in that one, but
Just
I can
for-
speak to them.
Yes, just to get their feedback.
Is the summer camp director a full-time position?
No.
How many hours a week does she work?
Typically, if it were an actual camp season, she would be 35 hours a week, but this is not 35 hours a week. So basically, the prep time leading up to it, and then part-time through the summer, a longer summer season than we usually have.
So how many hours?
I would say she would probably be doing about 17 to 20.
A week?
Yeah.
We just have to keep our eye on the ball here because we don't have any revenue coming in for this.
Exactly, yeah. No, understood. And it's a very fine line between offering nothing for a summer and offering some things that come in with revenue and other things just to keep the community going. If we tried to charge for every single one of these, the participation would not get a good return on the investment. But just having that community involvement and having the community activity when it's so desperately needed is going to be crucial to this summer and the well-being of the community.
So you have a job description someplace of all the duties that this person performs?
I have it for a general camp season, and when you think about it, it's actually exceptionally
What
similar.
I'm trying to do is figure out what is this individual doing compared to a normal camp director? We know what a normal camp director would do, but this is,
It is nearly exactly the same, except for managing the staff that would come along with summer camp. Activity planning, curriculum planning, shopping for curriculum, partnering with community agencies. So outside of the day-to-day
Don't strip.
management of the staff, it's near identical to the job
Well,
description.
Jessica, why don't you put, together some more detail and then submit that to us along the lines of having a redefined job description, more particularly the number of hours, say, revenue versus non-revenue generating, and so you can give us an idea and when you plan to kick off on this
and I agree.
and get that to us.
Yeah, I mean, if she's working 17 hours a week, that to me is not, a fatal error. Obviously, we're trying to do the best we can under the circumstances in the COVID environment, right? If she was doing 35 a week and we clearly didn't have 35 hours worth of work, then
No.
I think we'd have to have
That's
a
right,
discussion.
and that was the idea that I had discussed with Jessica, and I,
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
whole
And
program.
this is actually an extended summer. So over the course of the entire summer, she might end up probably not with the same amount of hours that she normally would have, but we're talking about a 2-week extension past the end of when physical camp.
I'm not concerned about that, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. If we're doing 17 hours a week or 17 to 20 hours a week for 8 weeks or 9 weeks, it's not the end of the world. We're going to have a revenue issue, but, this is all part of the COVID situation. So I think we're trying to do our due diligence here as best as we can. I certainly don't want to put her out of work after, it's not her fault that we're in the middle of this, right? But I do appreciate her understanding that we need to be flexible. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
Okay. Good.
So just one comment, not for you, but actually to Bill. So for Little League, I think as part of one of the discussion items here, number 4, where they talk about the workshop for athletic fields, I think at that point in time, we should set that up soon. We'll talk about opening of Little League as an example, because I do believe that they have a date they're expecting to open up. So we should just make sure that we're aware of that. I had talked to the league president a couple weeks ago, met him out casually, and he had suggested they were going to try to open up Little League, as Jessica had kind of stated before. So I just want to make sure that if they do have a season, and again, it'll be a shortened season, that there will be some level of funding for that. Again, we'll talk about it more at the workshop. I think Dick's going to bring that up later on, but I just want to make that clear and make sure we're still open to that.
And right now, it's my understanding, and unless you've heard something different, they can, there's a bug on me, okay. They can resume, youth leagues and adult leagues can resume practicing tomorrow.
No,
Oh,
but
it's
that's
still there?
Non-contact.
Non-contact.
Right.
Non-contact sports. All
It's
right, I'm
also
just-
25 per, there's a
Yeah,
whole
that's
bunch of
right.
stipulations
Right.
here.
Right.
What
So-
also needs to be
That's right.
stated is that guidance for Phase 4 hasn't even been issued yet.
No,
Right.
we
So-
don't know.
Phase 4 is supposed to start July 7th, although Splashdown has announced they're going to start on July 3rd because they're hoping to get an early Phase 4. They're saying 75% occupancy. There are other water parks in New York State that are requiring masks in their water
Yeah.
parks, which is crazy to
See
me.
pools not even
So-
opening.
There's guidance,
Yeah.
June 11th, state put out guidance on pools.
Right, but there's no guidance on Phase 4 right now.
Right,
for-
Yeah.
right, that's
But-
right.
And, on the pool guidance,
And-
the pool guidance specifically said no masks in pools.
No.
Right, but what my understanding is that commercial water parks are requiring you to carry a face covering and Ziploc bag
Right.
while you're on the property, and when you're
Right.
walking from ride to ride, you're supposed to wear the mask.
And Bill and I were just on a phone call today again, and, that's the
Just don't drop
status.
your bag into the,
Right.
Yeah, hold tight.
slide.
Well, that,
Yeah.
there's still a lot to
So the
water
point-
over the dam on this
Right,
point.
the point was relative to, and we just again, heard this
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
The interpretation of league sports versus practicing
Right.
versus formalized uniform-wearing sports, soccer versus baseball versus lacrosse versus football. There's all sorts of debate out there. So my point before was, I'm not so sure Little League even knows when they can start yet. And,
I would bet, and I truly mean this, you're going to see people on the fields as soon as they can be on the fields.
Right, but
For
whether it's a
practicing.
sanctioned games
For
in
practice.
season are a different story.
And I think
Yeah.
back to the councilman's point,
Yeah.
with respect to our contractual undertakings, if
Yes.
there is no sanctioned sports, then the
Right.
question is, do we, or to what extent do we enter into any contractual undertaking with those organizations?
Yeah,
Because,
no, understood.
I think, we can't be in a position either of condoning, practices that the governor himself has not authorized.
So we'll see,
But right now, we've said that from a practice point of view, within the limitations, if a group goes out there and wants to have informal practice within the, social distancing, the numbers, requirements for phase 2, then phase 3, then we're not stopping them, right? But when it comes to organized competition, that's a different story.
That's-
Correct,
yeah,
like,
that's-
we have our first practice rental for someone tomorrow.
well, practice rentals, as long as it's not an organized league, that's something that we need to make sure that we're not inadvertently authorizing something that is theoretically not allowed. I'll let you guys work that out during 8:30 to 4 PM, all right?
Yeah,
But
because,
tomorrow, phase 4 guidance should be out theoretically tomorrow,
Yeah, because
because Western New York.
Western New York's going.
Right,
Yeah.
theoretically.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
Okay,
They
let's
go in
move
Friday,
on.
They
We'll-
start Friday.
Right, but
Yes.
they should have it out 48 hours
Right.
prior, or at least 72, I mean. So we'll see.
Okay.
We're doing the best we can, that's all.
yeah, so I was gonna say, we have our
And-
first
and-
practice out there
and tune in,
tomorrow
it'll
for one
change
of the
tomorrow.
softball teams, so there's no going back now.
What's that?
There's a softball team out tomorrow for practice on the first day of practices being allowed, which is June 23rd.
Well, as long as it's not, as we talked about, organized, right?
There will be no additional team there.
And we're
It'll
not,
be just them.
I'll let you guys work it out there on business hours.
just as long as
Anyway,
we're
we
within the
can just-
guidelines.
Yeah.
that's right, I agree.
That's all I don't want to
Anyway,
hear
okay, let's move on.
that we're not.
Don't wear uniforms.
Yeah, yeah, let's move on.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jessica.
Jessica.
The next item is a continuation of what we had discussed before, and we're talking about as a backup. I think, as Bill and I also heard in today's, phone call, the county executive was indicating that as to the outdoor elements of restaurants, his inclination is, we don't have any rulings, but he's to continue his executive decree, in that most likely through the summer, outdoor, eating would still be allowed, subject to the current guidelines, and so, I mean, my thing, and Barbara and I haven't had a chance to talk about this part since I was on the phone most of the day on issues, is that, if that's the case, then, we're looking at perhaps not having the need for this right now, because indoor dining is being permitted up to 50% of seating capacity outdoor. The only possibility would be if things were to get worse, right, before they ultimately get better, then that might be something to look at. But in that case, it means that probably things would, be truly worse. So my thinking is, Barbara, and then you can address it, is that probably at this point in time, it's not necessary,
Well,
but go ahead.
actually,
Or is it? Okay.
because we were looking at the outdoor dining as a
Sure.
temporary fix for restaurants, we took a hard look at the outdoor dining that's in place right now. So a couple of years ago, you passed a local ordinance that I could issue permits up to 16 seats without an establishment going to the planning board. But we didn't have a lot of meat in it, and now when we were looking at all the different things that could happen with COVID, we think, David Stolman and I think that it would be a good idea to amend that code and add all these new things in. Some of the things that we would like to add for outdoor seating in any year without planning board is scale drawings instead of just a sketch. To have something in there that says we need, from the SLA, and also from Dutchess County Health, where before we didn't have that. If they have violations, what's our recourse? This would put that in there. No outdoor music or sound amplification. So there's a whole bunch of lists of things that we'd like to see in there, and I think it's important that we incorporate it. And then there would be a subsection about something with the pandemic, because we never know now what could happen in a future year. So we would at least have this in the code to back us up. So
Okay.
I think it's a good idea to go back and put this in to give more teeth to what we right now have.
I mean, the tent situation, I'm seeing as a temporary thing, correct?
Right.
Yeah, so if somebody, next year, pandemic's over, it's a beautiful year, and somebody wants to come out, they wouldn't be allowed in a parking lot.
Right, but what if,
So, and tents would be something, you'd need a tent permit, those are only temporary, you know, that's a whole different code.
so a parking lot is an exception for this year, I get that.
Correct.
But what if I'm Outback Steakhouse and I decide
Right.
next year I want to do what we're doing right now out at Outback Steakhouse? Is that something they can apply for?
No,
Okay.
because that would, so the code, the way it stands, is only 16 seats.
Okay,
So
Well,
most.
that's for you,
Right,
but they
for
could
me.
always go to this planning board for site.
Yes, they could, but then at the planning board, you wouldn't be in the grass, they would have to do some sort of a patio, if it would even get approved.
and they still have to get SLA approval on that too, right?
Right.
Yes.
Well, that's the other, I mean, I haven't seen an extension yet. This SLA approval technically expires July 6th.
Yeah, we had
So-
discussion today and talking about the enforcement element.
Well, and that's the thing, is the governor issued, to my mind, a pretty unenforceable executive order regarding any licensed premises that is expanded to the outside, or any on-premises establishment that has liquor to go is required to police the area within 100 feet of the establishment.
Yeah.
The problem is, it doesn't make a distinction between public and private property.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know what a licensee can do regarding people in the public way. So, you know, it becomes, it puts licensees kind of in a bad, in a
Yeah.
bad situation.
And additionally, of course, the enforcement burden will be on you as well, right? So,
That's why.
That was one of my
If you
concerns.
update this, you're actually giving me
Okay.
an avenue for enforcement with fines, without
Yeah.
updating this.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
That's
Well,
fine.
that's the other issue with the governor's order,
Yeah.
is there is no.
There
fine
is
with
none.
that.
Right, I mean, listen, the governor's orders are vague, to say the least. I think, the spirit of it, I think, is the right
Right.
spirit, okay? And I think if we're interpreting this correctly, tomorrow, it's gonna go 50% interior.
Yeah.
The way that we've interpreted this in Dutchess County is you can maintain 50% outside, right?
Right.
Well, the way that, I gave a presentation to the New York State Bar Association, so on Tuesday. And the way so there's a couple of different standards. The actual standards regarding what the capacities are and the spacing comes out of the Department of Health. And there is no, so it specifically says that the limitation on capacity is based on how you must maintain at least 6 feet between tables. It
We
says
saw-
tables, it should be.
We saw your mathematical
Sure.
formula on social media.
So, but subsequent to that, but, so anyway, and then SLA, originally the guidance only permitted outdoors and under tents. And with phase 3, they expanded it so that if you've got a fixed roof, you can now have it under a fixed roof, provided there's 2 open sides.
Right, they fixed,
So-
Outback would be an example of that. Originally, there was no seating allowed underneath the
Right, exactly.
porch.
So that was changed, and,
Yes.
you know, we had that discussion with them too. So, but, you know, SLA has very limited enforcement capability.
Right.
So they're looking to, you know, local municipalities, primarily police. So, and, you know, they're looking at issues regarding disorderly premises, out sale to minors, and open container violations for, you know, to-go situations. That was the issue down in New York City, where you would have a bar or restaurant would sell liquor to go, and people would just stand outside on the sidewalk and drink, so.
The only,
So-
go ahead.
No, that's right, Bill, go.
The only thing I was gonna say is, when you review this, if we can make sure there's some sort of barrier between,
Yes.
the roadway or,
Right,
you know, and
that's-
where the seating
Yes.
area is.
So we've been very diligent.
Okay.
Howie
Yeah.
Prager, the fire inspector, and myself have been going out. We have not let anyone open without barriers, strong barriers.
Right.
And so far, everyone's complied. As far as tents, they have to have the UL listing. Howie gets a copy of it. Fire extinguishers have to be available while they have people there. We did go to a few, I won't name them, who thought extension cords were a great idea. And they were informed that they should go out and buy LED lanterns,
Right.
Right.
anything battery, and with LED, you can really light it up.
Right.
So far, we've been doing really good
Okay.
out there.
Yeah, I agree with you with the barriers. I
Yeah.
was going through the village of
Yeah.
Fishkill, and
Yeah.
between Il Barrettos and 1111,
Yep.
they actually have a concrete barrier.
Yeah.
And I think that is the best I've seen so far. I've seen a few restaurants where it's just a little cord, and I'm afraid somebody's gonna go through that.
But what we've looked at too, though, with respect to concrete barriers and others that would consider it, fire access. You know, if you have a major concrete barrier that's in front. So I think Barbara's been adjusting it in order to get, you know, the right
So-
mixture between safety and fire. you know.
So with respect to the protection, I had an email exchange with codes in Albany, and there is nothing in any of the uniform code that requires a separation between people and parking areas. So there's nothing in the code. So if the town wants to require that, you would need this local law.
Right, that's
Right,
good.
and that's the idea behind it, when we
Because
started
the-
drafting the local law
I mean, we
months
have
ago.
issues with people going
Right.
through drugstore
Right,
front.
oh, yeah.
stores.
Oh, even in the village, we had.
Exactly. So I'm very concerned that people are used to parking lots.
We had a drive-through here right in the
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
by the way.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and they're just gonna plow through.
I'll walk to it.
Creatures of habit,
Right,
so
and that's
Yeah,
why,
it happens.
by
I know, I
updating
heard that.
this, you're putting a lot of safety features.
Right.
That's so
in,
important, yeah.
And a lot of enforcement issues. You know, you only
Yeah.
need one.
Exactly.
To do whatever they want.
So
that's-
based on this good discussion, I think we proceed with the way we planned, you know, for the public law, you know, change.
Yeah, I'm all
Right?
for that. I
Yeah.
think
And
so.
everybody
I agree, yeah.
consensus?
And
Yeah.
let the record show, we
Yeah.
hope we don't have to go through this again.
Right.
We hope that we're done with this once it's over,
Yes,
but
that would be
in case we do,
Well, that's what we talked
Well,
about.
that's-
So
yeah.
the permits we're issuing will expire on October 30th. If we're lucky enough to have an Indian summer, we can extend them for 2 weeks into November, but otherwise, that's it. They don't get to come back out next year. So then-
Otherwise, we're gonna be in big trouble because we have 4 trucks that we're down on.
Right.
the other thing,
So
real
we'll
quick,
look for that.
and Jim, you may know this, just with 30 seconds here. As we approach phase 4, right, and we get to
Yeah.
phase 4, and we see what the guidance is for internal occupancy and exterior occupancy, my understanding is that every couple weeks or so, we're gonna see an increase in internal occupancy and a decrease in exterior occupancy. We don't know, of course, yet, because there's no guidance, but I think the idea is to slowly move people back into these establishments. And I know the county executive said today, if there's a way that we can have a provision to maintain the outside for
Correct.
at least the summer
That's what he
season,
Yeah.
that might be something to
Entertain, yeah.
consider.
Sure.
Yeah,
Just a thought.
People do like to eat outside,
Yeah.
and if they get used to it now, they don't have a choice.
right.
They may like to continue
Yeah, yeah.
that
Right.
over the season.
Well, I
I
think the
agree,
most
yeah.
important thing is that we are looking to the future, you know, something else will pop up, and so we wanna be prepared to give flexibility, but enforcement capability too.
So that's why even
Barbara.
having the subsection that
Right.
is for the pandemic this year, if God forbid something came up in even 4 years, we have provisions already in our code to
Good.
address
You're being
that.
proactive, and I
Thank you.
think that's a good
Just-
thing. Thank you.
Just
Thanks.
to the point, the state liquor authority does not require any approvals right now for the expansion onto private property, so long as it's contiguous.
Contiguous.
Contiguous,
Right,
yeah.
so, you know, if people did it, you know, they can, if, you know, and I think some municipalities were looking to see the SLA regulate this rather than the local municipality, but the SLA is not regulating it. All you do is you draw a sketch, email it to the SLA, and you're good.
Right,
So they're not doing any review. They don't have the you know, they basically said, there's too many of them, we're just not gonna review it.
So let's just make sure we do our due diligence,
Right,
so we don't have any
exactly.
access.
So no,
Exactly.
because nobody else is reviewing,
That's
you
right.
know. And
So
I-
far, so
I-
good.
And I haven't seen anything out of the county health department,
yeah,
so.
no.
Have you
That's
seen,
right.
I haven't seen any extensions though either outside, right?
Well, Heritage? They
No,
got
but I mean, I'm
So-
talking about
so-
a liquor store, so
some
liquor stores, I haven't
restaurants
seen any
have had a lot of outdoor
extensions.
seating. So Heritage had X amount of seats,
Right.
very well spaced, so they were able to add some more. And they, when they were built, we asked them to put bollards in around the front
Right.
for them, and they did.
Right.
So they already came protected
Right.
for their
Okay.
seating.
Right.
Okay. Well, thanks, Barbara. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Barbara.
much.
Appreciate it.
And how many permits did you issue?
We have about 10 that are issued and 3 or 4 that are just coming in.
Okay.
Nobody's looking for a municipal space, right?
But, you know, we're lucky, unlike the Village or
Right.
Fishkill or Wappingers, they have sidewalks, so they're very limited. So really, we don't have that here, so most of it would be in front of their own place.
Parking
So
lots,
on their own
yeah.
property or rented space, so we haven't had to really look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Barb.
The next item is the continuation of what we had discussed before, the idea of a workshop meeting to discuss the sports programs and the past subsidizations relevant to our earlier discussion, going back through the list that we had with the Little League at one time and then soccer. I had summarized to the board, I guess back in early June, the discussion that Al and I had with soccer. So the idea was, in order not to encumber this meeting, but to have a focus meeting on a Saturday morning. We did discuss this last time about identifying perhaps a Saturday that we all could do this, and then I think pursuant to Councilman Beal's suggestion, Bill Beal, is that if there was some other major item we wanted to discuss at that point in time, then we could put that onto the agenda. This meeting would, of course, be a public meeting, but would be a workshop meeting of the board. We've done that, earlier this year.
So I was thinking of July 11th, it's 2 days before our next town board meeting, which is the 13th. So that might be something we want to entertain, so that if there's any follow-ups, we can have it 2 days later, or if there's any motions or resolutions we want to accept, we can also do it by then. And hopefully by then, we also have the Phase 4 information, so that Little League Soccer, whoever else is going to get started, we'll have enough information to make some judgments on funding, et cetera, or what else we'd like to do. Because as Dick said, we had a number of items that we've reviewed with soccer and Little League, and I think we just want to refresh those, bring it forward to the board again, and hopefully get their concurrence on some of the things we're looking at.
I agree, though, with Councilman Beal, that in the event that there aren't official programs or, competition, then, back to our capital plans and other responsibility on funding, then it spreads out, and allows us a little bit more time, to plan in that as well, at least to look at those, potential issues. So does the 11th
That
work
works for me.
It
Can
works
we
for
do the
me.
next week? I'm away that week.
The 11th, you're away the 27th, right?
I'm away,
This is the week after July 4th,
yeah,
you're
from the
on?
7th through the 12th, I'm away.
You're away till the 12th, you said?
Mhm.
So we have only one meeting in July, that's the 13th, and then our next one in August is not till, what, the end of August? Or middle, week of the 20th, something, right? Is that what it is, Joey? I don't read, you had the computer, I thought you might have been looking, I've forgotten the exact date. 22nd, 25th.
24th, is that Monday?
24th, somewhere around there.
24th, is that Monday? Yeah?
Our next meeting is July 13th.
Yeah, then it's, I think, the 24th.
Yes, it's August 24th,
Yeah.
November 9th, and December 14th.
Yeah, so we have a long time in between, once you have the discussion, and if there's anything we want to move on, you really can't, because you don't have a meeting for another entire month.
I'm
So
flexible.
this
Bill, would you-
Saturday doesn't work? The 27th?
I can do this Saturday, I'm not sure if everybody else can.
I don't.
No, I could do it.
It's a morning thing, right? So,
Yeah,
can you do the 27th?
Yes.
Of this month?
Yeah, this Saturday.
I'm gone.
No? Okay.
Well, then I'd say you can stay with the 11th. Gives a little time to
Okay.
plan and, huh? Well, we're talking about
We
before
wanna
the
do it
July
before
13th.
the next town board
meeting, if we
right?
can do
Since-
it.
I mean, Bill, are you? or what's your schedule? What's your preference? I'm flexible in either one.
I can do
of
either
those
I
one
am
days.
too,
myself.
yeah, I could do,
I'm just trying to think of when I'm going out of town. I have not been off in 106 days, so
Yeah.
the second half of July is probably gonna be vacation time, so.
why don't we send emails with dates work then, after you look at
Well, we
your
need to have
schedule?
a public notice of the workshop.
The date, yeah,
We lose the first Saturday in July, 'cause it's the 4th of July,
Yes.
obviously.
Correct.
yeah,
So,
And that's why I suggested the 11th.
yeah.
I mean, I could do the 11th, but I'll yield to the councilman for the 3rd ward there.
I'm gone, I could do the 18th.
I mean, the alternative is, Chris, if you have some things you want brought forward, you can certainly send it to the board, and we can have the discussion if that's okay by you.
That's fine.
Or we just do it on the 18th, and if we have, just missed this meeting, the next meeting.
Well, I
That's
think,
the
what
other
Al
thing, maybe?
suggested, if,
I
Chris, you
could
gonna,
do anything.
you gonna be
I'm
here for the
easy.
July 13th meeting?
Yes.
So maybe we can do that, and you can, we
I
can
can
meet
take-
on the 11th, and then, of course, Phil and Chris.
So Chris, just send me whatever you want me to discuss for you, or the board, I don't
Well,
care,
we have
and
the
I'll be happy to bring it forward, and then we can have
It's
a
a
discussion, and
Sunday.
a follow-up we can have on the
I-
13th, if that's agreeable to you.
Chris, could you do the 12th?
What's that?
Could you do the 12th, a Sunday?
I get home on the Sunday, so.
Okay, so
yeah,
that's,
no,
Yeah,
did you say do
That's fine.
Zoom on vacation?
could zoom them in on the 11th.
That could be very colorful.
We'll do work on vacation.
Sounds like a fun
Yeah,
vacation.
really. People with a lot of alcohol, I think.
Okay,
So-
Al, your preference, since you're, to
I'm-
the 11th?
My preference is the 11th, and then, like I said, I'll fill Chris in, or if he wants to send anything to the board that he'd like us to, discuss, I'll be more than happy to, bring that forward on his behalf.
Okay, the 11th, 10 to 12,
That works.
Yep, that's good.
okay? We have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we have a workshop session on July 11th from 10 to 12.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the resolutions, the first one is Resolution 2020-110, resolution accepting Pasadena Court and related easements for all Angels Heights subdivision together with maintenance agreements secured by cash deposit. Mr. Haran, why don't you summarize? There's a lot of
Can
materials,
just
a lot of easements and so
Continue
forth
that
in
on
there.
that, we haven't, have you heard from Rob? I have not heard, I sent him a
So,
couple emails.
Table.
Keep that on the table.
Table, okay. The next item, Resolution 2020-123. This is a resolution adopting Town of Wappinger Workplace Violence Prevention Policy Statement. Jim, would you like to give your legal?
Sure, so, the supervisor, the confidential secretary and I had a conference call with New York State Labor on Thursday of last week regarding responding to the notice of violation that was sent to the town regarding our workplace violence plans. As we discussed previously, we need to make some technical changes to the plan regarding the inherent risks present in the various town facilities. One of the things that was noted was that the policy, we had two different policies, policy statements for workplace violence, one that were adopted at different points in time in the town, and I believe what was adopted and what was posted were not necessarily in conformance with each other. So this is a resolution to basically update. It's really not a substantial change from one of the policies that was adopted. It's basically a restatement of the policy statement that New York State Department of Labor provides, and we just customized it regarding our officials here who need to be reported to, and then we are requesting additional time from the Department of Labor due to COVID to respond to the other issues.
We can discuss those in
So,
a minute. But this is basically required as a check-the-box item.
Right, and so, like I said, the town had done it before, but we actually had two conflicting policies that were adopted at different points in time. So, and it's required by the statute and the regulations. So if anybody has any questions.
Yeah. Any questions?
No.
You can answer. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you, Jim.
Sure.
The next item is Resolution 2020-124. It's the approval of the correspondence log.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Any special business and considerations, new business, before we go into executive session?
Nope.
None? Do we have a motion to adjourn for executive session for the purpose of discussing contract negotiation, collections, claim, and administrative agency?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Okay, we'll be back.
That workshop meeting will be duly noticed, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I mean, that's
You got that right.
why I want to make sure we do it. Yep.
Thank you. I'm not sure at that point, though.